Nothing much, Ben.
Yeah, I ain't choose the game chose me. I'm a champion, I need some trophy. I can drive the lane, I can shoot the three. I can run 100 yards, I can throw it deep. I ain't choose the game chose me. I'm a champion, I need some trophy. I can drive the lane, I can shoot the three. I can run 100 yards, I can throw it.
Do we have you, Lauro?
Yeah. So, hello, everyone, and welcome to the Extra Point, along with Isaiah, Ben, and Nate. I'm Loro. Sorry for the difficulties here. Anyways, just a little headphone malfunction here, folks. So, today we have a great lineup of topics tonight, as we are going to be discussing Week 18. We will recap that for you, along with the College Football Playoff National Championship game. We don't have a lot to say about it because it was such a blowout of a game in Georgia with the win. And then we have some head coaching news to get into as well. Hope everybody enjoyed the new year. I mean, Isaiah, your first show back since in a couple weeks. I mean, how are you doing today?
I'm doing awesome, y'all. How about those Georgia Bulldogs? Back-to-back national champs, man. Just completely demolishing TCU on Monday night, man. What? I mean, my Niners won. The Packers lost, so that means the Niners are playing the Seahawks on Saturday. And then Georgia won on Monday. So my week is off to a great start. It's been a great week thus far. Hopefully that it keeps on continuing. I know it's been storming out here in the Bay Area, but man, oh man, it's a great time. It's a great time, not gonna lie. And I know we're gonna talk about this probably later on in the show, or maybe even on Sports Weekly tomorrow. But Kirby Smart overtook Nick Saban on Monday night.
Yeah, and Ben, how are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I feel like I haven't been on here for a couple weeks now, like Isaiah. So with that being said, I'd like to wish y'all a happy New Year. Because I feel like I know I probably said it via off the air, but on the air specifically, 2023. I'm honored for all of you guys to be, with me for another ride of this year with the IM6 network and having more shows throughout the year. And in terms of myself, well, I was on vacation last week. So I was down in Florida, got some family down there, went to go see my old friend, the GOAT, sling it in Tampa Bay as the Buccaneers clinched their game against the Panthers. That was an electric atmosphere for the first time going there. Going to Topgolf, playing some golf down there, going swimming at the beach, going, to the pool. So, like I said, it ain't too shabby for me. I had to go back to work this week after vacation, which is always not the most fun. But now I'm kind of back into my routine like I was before the holidays. So, holiday season, I loved you, but it's moving on. We're in a new year. And also, the January, people say it's a boring month. We're in football season. We're in the playoffs. It can't get any better than this. So, I'm doing great myself, and hope you all are doing great. And like I said, to all, Happy New Year.
And Nate, since you're on, Nate, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. So if you see me, so I just started. Okay, I am doing great. I have keeping myself busy. In fact, right now I'm doing a couple of homework assignments while doing this show. So I've been keeping myself busy with school and everything, and I'm happy to be on.
All right. First up, we're going to talk about Week 18. I know that Well, to kind of speed up the show and have more time to make our picks here for the playoffs, we're going to ask each one of you about your favorite team's games first. But before then, we are going to talk about the Saturday games. We talk about first the Kansas City Chiefs defeating the Las Vegas Raiders 31-13. And you all know that Week 18 was all about paying tribute to DeMar and his amazing recovery that he has been going through here. I'll start with Ben on this. I mean, you and I both love Josh McDaniels. The Las Vegas Raiders fall to 6-11 as Kansas City locks up the 1 seed with the victory. Ben, what were your thoughts on this game in general?
Well, before I get into it, I would like to pay my tributes because I wasn't on Extra Point last week to the overall situation with DeMar Hamlin. Just a very tragic, at the time, very tragic, very somber, very unknown football feeling moment that I personally have not seen maybe ever watching this game. And I think really at the time, just watching it, I think it just made my heart stop. It made just everybody within the Bills, within the Bengals organization, just pretty much a full-on silent. And, to see a guy just, at that young of age to collapse just on the field out of nowhere after making a tackle and getting sent to the hospital. I mean, you're basically at the point in time where it's more than football. This is basically a person's life. And, we were very, for I think me and many people out there were very blessed to see, the workers, the doctors, everybody over in Cincinnati of helping DeMar Hamlin get back to basically, I mean, miraculously at this point in time, it still is just like, as they say in terms, God is great. I mean, this was pretty much a heroic situation that, going from, him basically at that point of the stage to pretty much today now, I believe he's going home. So, I mean, pretty much a lot of events have occurred throughout that, and everything moving on was great. It was all positive. It was pretty much just wow. So, with that being said, I think a lot of people being able to pay tributes to DeMar Hamlin from this past weekend's game. Of course, Laura will talk about our Patriots against the Bills, of course, that was a huge, game, of course, with the DeMar Hamlin after effects. But every game had a little bit of your tribute. Players, the warm-ups were in the number 3. Guys on, ESPN were in 3 and stuff like. So it pretty much was all showed out to DeMar, and I still pray for him and his family of getting back to fully on recovery as they're doing what they can. But in terms of this game specifically, I was actually on my flight going home back from Florida during this game, and I was debating on if I should take a nap because I was really tired or watch this game. And I'm like, I'm going to watch this game. And it was just boring. It was just like, I was really happy for Stidham. I know that, he balled out pretty well against the 49ers, against Isaiah's team. So I was kind of interested to see how the Chiefs would do against Jarrett Stidham. And I thought, the Chiefs really getting that number 1 seed. I think that was pretty much on their mind for most of this time. Patrick Mahomes is still undefeated in his career on the road against division, which is just absolutely mind-boggling. And I think really, for our friend Josh McDaniels, Laura, this was a failure for his head coaching, season. Yes, there was some injuries. There's a lot of definitely factors coming into it, but you brought in Devontae Adams, you brought in all these type of pieces, Chandler Jones, and you've just felt like the Raiders going to be able to make the playoffs this season. And they basically had one of the more disappointing seasons. Of course, now Derek Carr is going to be moving on. So they have a lot of things to kind of look at. Maybe also Josh Jacobs, one of their top running backs. He's going to be a free agent. He might go out there and try to find money elsewhere. So really the Raiders, I think, are going to be caught in a certain situation with their future. This game specifically, Patrick Mahomes did Patrick Mahomes type things. I think that the Raiders really just execution-wise, they had a couple fumbles, and it was really just the Chiefs game from start to finish. So, obviously with the tragic events, of course, understandably so, the AFC playoff picture kind of got a little more of a mixed up. I was still trying to process it from this past week, but now, of course, the Chiefs are now going to be the number 1 seed, despite the fact that the Bengals and the Bills, of course, in the finish together with the no contest, but There's not really no home field advantage, at least, with the Chiefs being number one seed, specifically, after kind of what happened. But with that being said, congratulations to the Chiefs, and they'll be number one seed for the playoffs this year.
Yeah, I think the Chiefs are ready for a good Super Bowl run as they're one of the favorites to win the Super Bowl, but we will be predicting this playoff bracket round by round this time when we get there. So, Isaiah, I'm going to get to you here, and I'm going to have you start first on our next Saturday game that we'll talk about in just a little bit. What was your overall thoughts on this Chiefs and Raiders game? I mean, there was no Derek Carr. Obviously, Jarrett Stidham came in. He did okay by all means, but the second half just looked like a boring football game.
Well, first off, Laurel, let me just say to you and your guys out there that were on the Twitter space with you, it was a pleasure to do it with you guys on Saturday afternoon when I hopped on briefly to talk about the Chiefs and the Raiders game. We also talked about the Broncos, interviewing Sean Payton there. It was fun, and you guys did a great job, and I hope that I can join you guys more down the line in the future. But about this game, I was actually kind of optimistic that this game was going to be a good game because you guys know division games are very, very unpredictable sometimes. From the paper, it might look like it's going to be a lopsided battle between the two teams, and it'll be a blowout, and that one team doesn't have a chance whatsoever. But we see in a lot of division battles, no matter what the record is for both teams, no matter what the talent advantages are for both teams, it's unpredictable. It could be very, very close. It could be down to the wire. We may see some upsets. Division battles are just typically very, very unpredictable. And I was hoping that would be the case in this game. I wasn't hoping that the Raiders were going to win. I was hoping that the Raiders were just going to make it interesting. But after the first drive, like Ben mentioned, it basically was a boring game. The Chiefs drove down the field, they drove right down the field for a touchdown on the first drive of the game, and that was basically all I needed to know, that this game was going to be a blowout. The Raiders defense couldn't stop the Chiefs whatsoever. The Chiefs offense just had their way with the Raiders defense, and Jarrett Stidham finally came back to earth after his performance last week against my 49ers. He came back to earth, and he had a lot of questionable throws in this game, and he made a lot of mistakes, had a couple of interceptions in this football game, and he got exposed in this game. And I think also in this game, it was a clear sign to Mark Davis, Josh McDaniels, Dave Ziegler, the general manager, and also the rest of Raider Nation that had maybe hung on to the fact that Jarrett Stidham may be their guy after his performance against the Niners, that he certainly isn't. And you got to go out and go find a quarterback, whether that is in the NFL draft or you got to go out and get a veteran. You don't have a solution to your problem at the quarterback position right now. Chiefs, they looked extremely dangerous. They were passing the ball extremely well. I mean, there was one play where, you had all 11 guys literally going ring around the world on that play. That was one of the most creative plays that I've ever seen in my life. And then they were also running it extremely well. But I think this was more about the Raiders being awful than the Chiefs being great. We know how great the Chiefs are, but the Raiders are probably the biggest disappointment of the season because, like Ben mentioned, they made the playoffs last year. They didn't lose anybody. All they just did was get Devontae Adams. They got Chandler Jones. They got Josh McDaniels, who many people beforehand thought he was an upgrade over Rich Bisaccia. They got all these pieces, and they go 6-11. That can't happen. This was a major disappointment in Josh McDaniels' first season as a head coach. And if he doesn't get either a Tom Brady, Jimmy Garoppolo, if he doesn't find the solution at the quarterback position this offseason, and next season it's another like 5-12 or a 6-11 season, I guarantee you Josh McDaniels will not see the end of the season with the Raiders, and he'll probably be fired midway through the season if the Raiders get off to a sorry start like they did this season. So the Raiders have a lot of work to do this offseason, but the Chiefs are a well-oiled machine, and it's going to be interesting to see what they do come playoff time, especially against the Bengals, who have had their number in recent past. The Bills are another team. Maybe a healthy Lamar could challenge the Kansas City Chiefs. And I'm being serious when I say this. Watch out for Jacksonville. Watch out for those Jags from Jacksonville, Florida. I'm not saying they'll beat the Chiefs, but if they
can give them a game.
Yeah, it'll be a good game. Exactly. It'll be a good game. I'm not saying they're going to win, but that would be a really good battle.
Anyways, I'll get to Nate here. You're familiar with this division here. What was your thoughts overall on this Chiefs and Raiders game?
The way that this was going, I thought it was going to be worse. I mean, by the time the first half was over, I was actually in the middle of work, and I was telling my boss, "Hey, like this game it's ugly. This game is ugly," and I thought it was going to be like 40-something, and it wasn't.
It felt like it probably.
It felt like it, yeah. Yeah. And to be honest, I don't understand what the Raiders were thinking when benching Derek Carr. I see him gone, and I'm gonna go out on a hot take here. Josh McDaniels, he's from New England. I can totally see them making a strong push to try to get Tom Brady.
Ooh, that might not happen, but I
don't think so.
McDaniel,
but I think they're gonna make a strong push for it.
We'll see. That might be really tough to see. Anyways, now, guys, now we talk about Isaiah's wish coming true this Saturday. The Jacksonville Jaguars were one time down in this game against the Tennessee Titans, and the Titans started out the game really good. They were in the lead. They looked like they were in cruise control. But Trevor Lawrence and the Jacksonville Jaguars found a way to win. And it's a testament to how good they've been down the stretch. Their 3-7 start, Isaiah, everybody was like, oh my God, the Jacksonville Jaguars are done. It's not really Doug Peterson's fault for it because this team is relatively young. They have a good their offense was growing. They were facing a lot of growing pains, but it was their defense that was still a work in progress, even though the Jags defense right now is not the one like in 2017 when it was Saxonville. But it will get better as time goes on so that we can see Saxonville return to Jacksonville. Isaiah, what were your thoughts on this? But there was also coaching news after this game for the Titans. They fired Todd Downing right after this game. Mike Vrabel was not fired, but there were changes. There are going to be changes to the offensive staff for the Tennessee Titans next offseason.
How about them Jags, y'all? How about them Jags? I mean, you know, the game was about a couple of days ago, and I am still, to be honest, stunned that the Jacksonville Jaguars were sitting here, that the Jacksonville Jaguars are AFC South champs. Like, I honestly believe I'm dreaming right now. I believe I'm in a deep sleep right now. I can't believe it. Like, when I saw it, when I saw the ending of that game, and I saw that the Jaguars got the stop on 4th down, and the Jags were sitting here as AFC South champs, I couldn't believe what was going on. Like, it's insane, you know. Like, the Jacksonville Jaguars at week 10 of the season, week 11, they were 3-7. They had, I believe at that time, a 15% chance to make the playoffs, much less win the division. Like,
Crazy.
that's how much the odds were against the Jacksonville Jaguars at that time. And just to see them go on this massive winning streak, Trevor Lawrence play the way that he does, and for them to come out there and win the division, it's just mind-boggling, and it's insane. Like, I can't believe it happened. Shout out to Doug Peterson on an amazing job coaching that he did this season, rescuing the Jags from the failure of the Urban Meyer era, and really helping this team heal. He also helped Trevor Lawrence develop and look like the #1 overall draft pick, even though he didn't look that great in this game. But I feel like down the stretch in this game, Lawrence played an really outstanding game and showed why he was the #1 pick in the draft. The Jags they didn't really run the ball that well. You know, their offense is predicated on a really run first mentality, and you know, the run to make it easier on Trevor Lawrence. But if you look at it, they didn't really run the football that well. You know, ETN only had 7 carries for 17 yards before he left the game. I believe in the third quarter, JaMychal Hasty only had 3 carries for 5 yards. He was non-effective. Trevor Lawrence, 4 carries for -3 yards. He was pretty much non-existent running the football-wise. So it came down to the Jaguars defense, which last year had been one of the worst defenses in the NFL, stepping up. And it came down to Trevor Lawrence, who showed why he was the #1 pick. I mean, this guy was throwing dimes all over the field in the second half, completing balls to Christian Kirk, Marvin Jones. You know, Evan Ingram was big late. Zay Jones was big. You know, Luke Farrell had a great catch down the sideline. But I think it really came down to a player that we all knew was great, but he had not been bursting onto the scene because of all the coaching failures in Jacksonville with Doug Marrone and then Urban Meyer, and that was Josh Allen. Josh Allen, the defensive end, showed why he's one of the
not the Bills one.
Yeah, not the Bills one. Exactly, that's the Bills one.
Yeah, don't confuse yourself with the Bills, Josh Allen.
Exactly. But yeah, that Josh Allen for the Jags, man, he came up with a huge play, and that basically was the game winner. A play where he strip sacks Josh Dobbs, ball goes right to the Jaguars defender. He returns it to the end zone for a touchdown, and that's when I knew the Jaguars had the game, because the Titans had to score a touchdown. I don't trust Josh Dobbs. There was no way Derrick Henry was going to beat him because they were stacking the box, and there was no way that Josh Dobbs was going to beat the Jags with his arm, because he's shown that he's not a adequate quarterback in the NFL. So congratulations to Jacksonville. Congratulations to Duval Country. I know they've waited a long time for this, and you know, I can't wait. I mean, I can't believe that my insane pick that the Jags were going to win the AFC South actually came true. Hey, I'm surprised that not only the Jags pick came true, but remember, guys, I picked the Giants to make the playoffs. I did pick them to win the division, but they made the playoffs. Like that, it's just insane how many of my insane picks have come true this season. But great.
You might have more insane picks when baseball season starts, Isaiah.
Yeah. The only team that I'm not gonna pick is the Detroit Tigers, because they really buried me alive last year. But yeah, you know. Congratulations to the Jags. Congratulations. Great win.
Yeah, we'll get to you in a minute here, Isaiah, as we're going to get your thoughts on the Niners game when we talk about favorite teams' Week 18 games here. Ben, I'll go to you next. We both love Mike Vrabel, fellow Patriot, but after this game, Ben, he fired Todd Downing as the offensive coordinator for the Titans, which I think had to happen. Todd Downing had made some boneheaded calls, and Tennessee is now in for a new offensive coordinator. Don't be shocked if that is Bill O'Brien that will join Mike Vrabel on his staff here. And I think that would be a match made in heaven for Tennessee's offense to get back on track. The Jaguars, who would have thought, Ben, that they would win? You were the one last year. Remember last year when you messaged us, breaking news, pound those alarms, and it was Doug Peterson that came out of his 1-year sabbatical to rescue the Jacksonville Jaguars from his 1-year sabbatical, and he rescued them, like Isaiah said. This Jaguar team, the torch has been passed in the AFC South. Who now rules it? It's Trevor Lawrence and the Jags. We're now starting to see the generational talent that we have in Trevor Lawrence at quarterback. He's shown why he's the number 1 pick in last year's draft. And you know what? Jacksonville's now the team to beat in the AFC South.
Yeah, well, Isaiah, I know that you don't have your camera on, but I gotta give my tip of the cap because you went on the limb and you said Jacksonville would win, I believe, the division last year, and everybody laughed at you. So you're just like, you know what? For the early preseason, I'm gonna just do it again and see what happens. I think many people had the same feeling. They're just like, he's really just gonna do this again. And after seeing it at 3-7, I'm just like, man, that's gonna be another age bad, maybe third time's the charm. And then I gotta give credit where credit's due with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Not only that they made the playoffs, Trevor Lawrence and Doug Peterson, I think, have the most credit. They went through a ton of really tough teams. I mean, there were some highlighted games. I mean, they played really like that comeback against the Ravens, that the game against the Cowboys in overtime. They were grinding games out. Trevor Lawrence, I mean, the fourth quarter was playing great at the right times, showing why he's the number 1 overall pick. But I think that Doug Peterson is a top 3 consideration for Coach of the Year. This guy has literally unlocked the keys to Trevor Lawrence progressions, and you saw what he was able to do this year with a very good head coach. So Jacksonville's defense also came up at critical times in a lot of these games after coming 3-7, where they needed stops or they made the plays, and it came to in the playoffs when, like Isaiah, when the defense had to occur. I have to disagree a little bit with your Trevor Lawrence performance. I thought he was actually a little subpar in this game, but that even makes it more impressive because the Jacksonville Jaguars, a lot of these times, have had to need Trevor Lawrence to be Trevor Lawrence. And I thought he wasn't bad, but I didn't think it was one of his like Trevor Lawrence type games that we kind of saw down the stretch. He missed, I remember, a wide open pass, I believe, that would have given them the lead. There were just a couple. I mean, Tennessee had a really good defensive game plan, but I also thought that Trevor Lawrence, his game overall wasn't as sharp, but the defense basically, was a huge turning point where they've been a lot in kind of that crucial stretch to make the play that they needed. And basically, I agree with you, Isaiah, on this, where basically I knew that the game was going to be in the hands. Because Joshua Dobbs, I bet he's a really good person. I bet he's a really good guy. He's been decent in Tennessee. But let's all be real. Nobody really thought he was going to go down the field and take over that game. I would have eaten my words if that was the case. But congratulations to Jacksonville, man. They've had it rough for many, many years. And they finally had the right head coach. They had finally the quarterback for the future. And I agree with you, Loro. I think the Jacksonville Jaguars, I don't think it's as crazy as it sounds now. You're going to be a team to force to be reckoned with the AFC South because you look at the rest of that division. The AFC South, the Texans, they'll probably draft Bryce Young, but what else are they going to look at? I mean, maybe I guess if they looked at Sean Payton, who's potentially going to be looking at Houston as one of the jobs, but even so, that's still. The Colts, I feel like the Colts, just going through a carousel of old guys, they go through very mediocre type. I don't see that. I mean, I think that they maybe compete. Tennessee, I mean, I don't know what their quarterback situation is right now. I mean, Malik Willis, Ryan Tannehill probably be moving on at some point. So you kind of just look at this whole situation in that division. You're like, I feel like Jacksonville is the best foundational head coach to quarterbacks right now for the future with a decent defense. So I give a lot of credit for Jacksonville. Congratulations to them. I don't know how much I have them. You guys will hear about my pick, down the stretch for the Chargers-Jags game. But I will say this: they will give the Chargers a run for their money because they've been playing team stuff all the way from the second half down. I will let you guys know. I won't spoil it now in terms of who will win that game, though.
Yeah, we're going to save that for later. So, Nate, we'll go to you. It's been a long time coming for the Jags. I hate to make comparisons. I have to say the 2022 Jags are better than the one that won the division in 2017. I didn't think Blake Bortles was that good of a quarterback. The reason why the Jags went all the way to the AFC Championship game to play my Pats, it was because of that really good defense that they had, and also Leonard Fournette was a big factor for it. But if you look at this Jags team right now, they're fun. They have made Jacksonville fun, and I think more people are wanting to go to Jags games because of Trevor Lawrence. But as for Tennessee, Mike Vrabel made some changes to his coaching staff already. And what was your thoughts on the game overall?
I think that if they were to give an award for the comeback coach of the year, I think it should be going to Doug.
Talking about Doug Peterson.
Doug Peterson, yeah. Because, I saw what he was in Philly. It didn't go out well in 2020. He wasn't the greatest play caller. He can coach, but he wasn't really the greatest play call out in the world. Gets fired, they bring in Nick Sirianni. Doug Peterson goes into Jacksonville, gets hired in Jacksonville, starts off 3-7, but then was able to turn it around. I think Doug Peterson should be considered, if they were to have this award, the comeback coach of the year.
I think that's a good award, Nate. I mean, comeback coach of the year. But anyways, here, Nate and Isaiah, we'll get to you guys in a little bit because we're going to talk about your favorite team's games right now on this Sunday slate of Week 18. Ben, I'm going to start with you. You and I have a lot to say on this New England Patriots season. They finished the season 8-9 with a loss to the Bills. They had an opportunity to do one thing, Ben, beat them, and we were in the playoffs. But they did not. I mean, the first half, I thought they were playing hard. Second half, I didn't see any effort from this New England Patriots team. And you also know that this team is going to have some changes with the offensive staff. Bill Belichick reportedly met with Robert Kraft today to talk about those changes. And it's looking likely that we are not going to see Matt Patricia coach that side of the ball and that they're going to try something different. Like, I am hearing that potentially, like we'll talk about Gerard Mayo. If he gets the defensive coordinator job in Cleveland, that could move Matt Patricia to linebackers coach. Joe Judge could go back to special teams. We'll talk about that in a minute. The Bills played their first home game since the Damar Hamlin incident in Cincy, and I credit them for a great win. I knew that this was on their minds. But still on our end, Ben, this Patriots team could have played better. Mac Jones had an okay game, but he threw 2 to 3 picks here, man. But we got to talk about the game first before we kind of dive deeper into what is going to be happening for the next season for the Patriots when it comes to their offensive coaches.
Well, I got to say this, first of all. I really, really enjoyed the tribute that the Bills and the Patriots did after the effects of Damar Hamlin. I thought that was really well done. I even got a little emotional before the game, just because it just felt like it was just like a couple of days ago, but it turned out like it was like a week past. They just did a really good job for what they did there. In terms of the game, Laura, I think it really specified kind of the Patriots season in a nutshell. For the 20 years, the Patriots, they've been so good in complementary football. And ever since that Tom Brady left, it's pretty much you can have quarterback play, but you need to still be able to win in all 3 facets of the game. And really the whole entire season, the Patriots, whether it's good defense but bad offense, example of this game, great. Actually, I thought the offense had one of their better games in this game. I think that the Mac Jones had potentially one of his best games in this game, particularly because a couple of the touchdowns were really good throws. I mean, he had really good drives in the first half. I think he was 8 for 8 under center in the first half in play action, specifically opportunities, which I don't know why Matt Patricia decided to wait to the last game of the season. Don't ask me why. And the running game, Damian Harris and Andre Stevenson, but it came down to 2 kickoff returns for a touchdown. I mean, essentially, you look at that. I mean, the Bills scored 2 other touchdowns offensively. You take two of those kickoff returns off for a touchdown. I mean, you deserve a lose a football game to not only give up 1, but to do 2 kickoff returns for a touchdown. So, I mean, yes, that's just pretty much an outlier. You know, special teams specifically really bad in this game, but just the whole entire season, lower 8 wins and 9 losses. That defines what the Patriots really were this year. They were average because they had a lot of holes roster-wise. Of course, we'll get into the coaching in a little bit, but they just never were able to find kind of complete type of team where you could just put it kind of all together, win really a statement game in every fact. Every win had to be really ugly or a lot of opportunities, mistakes on the other side. It wasn't just, you know, maybe I guess the Cleveland game where you'd say that was a great dominant win from top to finish. But the Patriots really, a lot of this season pretty much fell on other people's mistakes more than them trying to capitalize more on a consistent basis. But I do believe Mac Jones, the last couple weeks of the season, probably played his best football. I thought that the 2 interceptions he made, the second one pretty much was, I liked the opportunity, go for the end zone. It was a tip pass and went right to I think it was Matt Millan. And then the third one basically was more in like garbage time where I think there was like 2 down, like couple scored, like couple minutes, like 3 minutes left or something. And went right up to Damon Harris and ricocheted right into somebody's hands. It wasn't even that bad of a pass. The first one, I think, was more of a communication. I mean, Mac, it was 17-14, I believe, or it's 14-14 is the drive right after half, and the Patriots were driving great. And then Mac throws the pick, and then fortunate enough that we get the ball back right after because Singletary fumbled. But I think really outside that interception, I mean, I thought Mac played a pretty flawless game. You know, you throw for 200 plus. I think it was 230, 240. So, I mean, 3 interceptions, I mean, you think, man, that's terrible. But I think really it was more of an outlier because I thought that he played one of his better games. But in this season's potentially lower, it was very disappointing. I thought the Patriots had many games that they should have had to basically be in the playoffs. I mean, I'm looking at it right now, and you're having the 7th seed, you're having Skylar Thompson. I mean, it's nothing to take away. I mean, Tua definitely, if you look at it between Miami, Pittsburgh, and New England, I mean, Tua and Kenny Pickett and Mac Jones, you obviously would take Tua probably in terms of experience and stuff like that. But, you know, now you're just looking at it just like, man, I mean, I wasn't expecting us to go into Buffalo into the playoffs and win. But personally for me, Lauro, I was really happy with the way that they fought. It's just a matter of Buffalo really had a lot to prove. And they're a force to be reckoned with in the AFC East, not only in the AFC East, but AFC for years. And it's obviously Sean McDermott and Josh Allen really have a great foundation there. And we'll see if they win it for DeMar Hamlin. That's obviously another thing that's going to be motivated by. But, yeah, it's tough to see the Patriots out of it. But to be honestly, I'm really glad to hear the news about the offensive coordinator situation. Grab the Band-Aid off, and let's get started the offseason.
Yeah, that's what it says right here. According to coaching rumors here, there's going to be some reassignments this offseason as Bill Belichick and Robert Kraft both had a face-to-face meeting about this. And I've also heard, Ben, that there is a possible chance that if the Patriots do not bring back Bill O'Brien, they might, however, bring in Cliff Kingsbury. Do I mind the move? I mean, I don't mind it because Cliff Kingsbury can design an offense and design a playbook, design the schemes on offense. He's really good at that now that he's out in Arizona. And as for Matt Patricia and Joe Judge, it's looking like that Bill Belichick's going to reassign them. Like, say if Gerard Mayo, there's a chance that he might leave to be the defensive coordinator for the Cleveland Browns under Kevin Stefanski. Matt Patricia might move to might coach linebackers, so that because we all know he's more of a defensive type of coach. And then Cam McCord, who I want fired, man, and want him not being our special teams coordinator because he has been a mess. He messed up our special teams, man.
Been overdue. He needs to be fired. Yeah.
And then putting Joe Judge back there to special teams coordinator, I think would be beneficial for Joe Judge to go back to special teams.
No, I definitely wholeheartedly agree. A lot of changes this offseason need to be made, and coaching, of course, is our first priority before looking at the roster.
Yeah, and you wouldn't mind Cliff Kingsbury as our offensive coordinator?
I wouldn't hate it. I also was reading something that with the future up in the air with Sean McVay right now, watch out potentially for. I was reading something from the Patriots beat of Zach Robinson, who could be a quarterbacks coach for Mac Jones. I think that would be something really, really interesting. But obviously, time will tell. I think there's a lot of routes we can go, Laura, but I just think that now with the specific Bill and Robert Kraft talking about, we can move forward. Changes needed to be made. You got to think that, with the cap that we have, we're top 5 that I think available in terms of cap space. We use the money. We have changed with the coaching system, and I think that all full go of us, rebounding and having a good chance of not only going to the playoffs but making a really deep run. Because we really played a lot of teams well this year. They played a lot of teams hard and fought, but I really think that when it came down to it, our flaws really showed at times and moments of the games, and that really has to get approved in this offseason.
Before we get to Isaiah and when we talk about his Niners, Christy Wilson said she's surprised about the Jags, making the playoffs and winning. Justin Bosman says, what about Bill O'Brien? Ben and I kind of talked about that. I think it's possible that the Patriots have contact with him, but also don't rule out Cliff Kingsbury because he played for the Patriots and he could really work with Mac Jones. Zach Robinson's also a good opportunity, a good person to be our quarterbacks coach. And Chardol says, hello, gentlemen. But we will talk about Mike LaFleur in just a little bit here. So I'm going to go to Isaiah here next. The San Francisco 49ers, what are you going to say here? I mean, they beat the Cardinals 38-13, and we have to discuss Cliff Kingsbury's firing. That was his last game as the Cardinals head coach.
That's 10 in a row, baby. That's what I'm going to say. 10 in a row, 10 wins in a row for the 49ers. Going into the playoffs, red hot. And, I don't think anybody's shocked that the 49ers won this game, and not only won, but they stomped Arizona because they were the better team. Arizona was playing their third-string quarterback in David Blau. Even he left the game, I believe, midway because of an injury. Trace McSorley came in. DeAndre Hopkins wasn't playing. James Conner wasn't playing. Like, this was literally the 49ers versus the Arizona Cardinals Pee-wee football team. Like, that's how bad of a matchup this was. The 49ers, the Arizona, they got that trick play to go up 6-0 to start the game, but it was for all 49ers afterwards. I mean, the Niners punished the Cardinals with the running game. They punished them with Brock Purdy throwing to George Kittle, and the defense just completely smothered Arizona. I mean, Arizona couldn't do anything after the first half. They were moving the ball pretty well in that first half, but in the second half, the Niners just clamped down, and the Arizona, they just couldn't do anything on offense anymore. So I don't think anybody was surprised by it. I personally wasn't. I thought the Niners were going to completely destroy the Cardinals. J.J. Watt, shout out to him. Terrific career. Future Hall of Famer, one of the best to ever do it at his position, and he definitely will be missed. He had a terrific game with 2 sacks on Brock Purdy to end his career. But if you're Arizona, the change had to be made because it just seemed like that you had to clean house because the Cardinals were a playoff team last year, and after the playoff run that they had, they end up going, I believe it was 5-12 to end the season, and they missed the playoffs.
Well, they're 4-13, Isaiah, and that's what cost Cliff Kingsbury his job.
Yeah, 4-13, and I mean, Arizona, they just looked disoriented from the beginning. We know they have a lot of talent offensively and defensively with Kyler, with DeAndre Hopkins. They even added Marquise Hollywood Brown, but it just never fit. And I think that the biggest reason why this Cardinals team struggled a lot, the injuries had a big part of why they struggled, but it was because of their lack of chemistry and also because the Arizona Cardinals were just one of the most undisciplined teams in football this entire season. I mean, they averaged, and I saw this on TV on the Fox telecast, and I couldn't believe it, but they averaged 8 penalties a game. You're never going to win in the NFL when you're averaging 8 penalties a game. So they didn't have any discipline. They had a lot of injuries. Cliff Kingsbury and Steve Keim, the general manager, they both had to go. Kyler Murray, he's going to be in charge of he's going to have a big input on selecting the new coach. You better select a coach that he can work well with, because if it doesn't, it might be another Cliff Kingsbury, Kyler Murray situation. I'm really interested to see what kind of an offense or how Kyler can be in a pro-style offense, given the fact that he's only run an air raid offense his entire career and his entire life, dating back to his college days and his high school days. But as far as the Niners are concerned, I'm going to say this right now, and this might be controversial, but I know it's only been 6 games, but Brock Purdy needs to be the front runner for Offensive Rookie of the Year. When you look at this rookie class right now, there's really not a lot of rookies, especially on the offensive side of the ball, that really stand out. And when you look at what Brock Purdy's doing, yes, it's only in 6 games, and he's got a stacked team, but it's super, super impressive. I mean, he had 13 touchdowns, 4 interceptions in 6 games. Like, that's extremely impressive stuff that Purdy's putting out. And remember, Purdy was the last pick of the draft, and also he was a 3rd stringer going into this NFL draft. Or he was a 3rd stringer coming into the season. So what he's doing right now with the Niners, extremely impressive. He should definitely be the winner for the Offensive Rookie of the Year. It would be a travesty if he doesn't win it, but the Niners are getting healthy. You saw Deebo Samuel back. Elijah Mitchell had 2 powerful touchdowns. They have Christian McCaffrey now. George Kittle's there. Brandon Ayuk. Purdy's doing great. The defense is getting stronger with Kerry Hyder, Kevin Givens, and others most likely coming back this weekend. I mean, the Niners are getting healthy at the right moment. They're playing the Seahawks, which I'm so glad that Green Bay lost, because I would not have wanted to face a red-hot Aaron Rodgers going into the postseason. But it's going to be a fun battle, and the Niners have some revenge that they need to exact after what happened back in 2013, which honestly I'm still not over. So I hope the Niners hang 50 on Seattle on Saturday afternoon just for payback for what they did to us back in 2013.
Well, can't wait to hear your thoughts on this game. We'll go to Nate next. You talk about Nate. I mean, the LA Chargers basically had nothing to play for, but Brandon Staley was like, I want my starters to play. That way we don't lose a lot of momentum heading into the playoffs. But there were some injuries there, and there were a lot of questionable decisions that he made. Like, why would he play Mike Williams on an injured back? Stephen A. Smith said that he deserves to be fired if the Chargers lose to the Jags, which we'll talk about in a minute. But as for the Denver Broncos, you wanted this win for the Broncos because you really liked Jerry Rosburg in these last 2 games.
I really did, although I have a feeling that he might go back to retirement. But that being said, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Brandon Staley does get fired. I kind of am agreeing with Stephen A. Smith there. Why in the world would you start anyone that is your starter heading into the playoffs in Week 18 when you have nothing to play for? Now you have an injured receiver who probably will not be playing next week against the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Or you're talking about 3 days from now, he won't play.
Well, yeah, 3 days from now. As for this week, the Denver Broncos ended up actually scoring more than 30 points. First time we did that in the entire season. Said we get the win. Russell Wilson actually scored about a quarter of the number of touchdowns that he compared to the bathrooms that he has in his house. So this was an exciting game, best game we had all season, and I have been telling people all season long, Russ was not the problem in this season for Denver. it was
Agreed.
Nathaniel Hackett.
Yeah, and we got to talk about the Denver Broncos coaching search in a little bit here, but everybody has to chime into this. The Detroit Lions have ended the Green Bay Packers season. I was hoping for a winner take all for that final wild card spot if Seattle beat the LA Rams, if the LA Rams beat Seattle. But you know what? My thoughts on this game is I really think that the Detroit Lions are on the rise. And I say that because, this team comes out to play for 60 minutes, game in and game out. Dan Campbell gets this team to play. And that's why I like Dan Campbell so much as the head coach of the Detroit Lions. When he got the job, he said all the right things in his opening press conference with the Lions, biting kneecaps, getting into your face, and also ruining teams' playoff chances. That is the Detroit Lions for you. And I questioned Jared Goff if he was going to be the long-term answer quarterback for the Lions. But you know what? Hey, I think the Detroit Lions might have something in Jared Goff. And I think the Detroit Lions, I think they have the momentum heading into next year. Their first winning season in a long, long time. Isaiah, you wanted the Green Bay Packers to get knocked out here. What was your thoughts when you saw this game? And I'm telling you, Dan Campbell proves to me and to you and to everybody on this panel that he is the right man in Detroit as their head coach.
Well, my thoughts on this game was a tale of two halves. Because in that first half, it looked ugly for the Detroit Lions. They had a missed field goal. They had a touchdown, a 60-yard touchdown pass called back on a flea flicker. So it looked really bad. It looked like Green Bay was going to run away with it. But I felt like at the end of the first half, when Detroit got that fumble from, I believe it was Aaron Jones. They got the fumble from Aaron Jones when Green Bay was driving in Detroit's territory, and it looked like they were primed to either kick another field goal or score a touchdown that I think would have put the game away. Detroit gets the fumble, and then they drive down the field. They kick a field goal. So instead of it being 12-3 at that point, or potentially 16-3 at that point, it was 9-6 at halftime. That was, I felt like, the game-changing play of that football game. Because if Detroit goes down 16-3, I don't think they have the offensive ammo to continue and to come all the way back and win the game. If they go down like 12-3, it still wouldn't be as bad, but it would look it would look bad for the Detroit Lions, and all their hopes would basically be gone at that point. So that fumble by Aaron Jones was extremely huge for the Detroit Lions, and it was the biggest reason why the Detroit Lions ended up winning this football game, and honestly, in my opinion, ended the Aaron Rodgers era in Green Bay. The Detroit Lions, in the second half, it looked like that fumble woke them up as Jared Goff played some outstanding football. They ran the football better in the second half. Their defense came to play in that second half, and they rallied to the ball. And I think we also got to mention this, that the Green Bay Packers basically killed themselves in the second half because there were two boneheaded penalties that just made you go like, what is going on? What kind of program is Matt LaFleur running in Green Bay, Wisconsin? I mean, the first one was one of the most stupidest penalties I've ever seen in my life. Was I think it was.
Are you talking about Quay Walker when he hit the trainer?
So injured Lion is down on the field. The trainers are coming out. The trainers are in the middle tending to him. And I don't know what was said or what happened, but Quay Walker pushes a trainer. I mean, the guy didn't initiate the contact. He just randomly pushed the trainer. It's like, what are you doing? You saw him right there on the field. You can't tell me that you mistaken him for a rep. This guy was just right there. You saw him as there tending to the player, and you just randomly pushed him. Like, what are you doing, Quay Walker? You deserve to be ejected, and the Packers deserve to have a 15-yard penalty because that was an absolute boneheaded decision by Quay Walker. It was the stupidest thing on the earth. And then the other one was, I know people were saying like, the Packers corner was trying to not let the Lions kicker kick the field goal. Instead, I guess he saw Matt LaFleur call a timeout or whatever it was. But the one where he goes and he picks up the ball, not letting the kicker kick the field goal, and he gets a 15-yard penalty. That was a killer right there, because instead of it being fourth down and Detroit having to kick a field goal, instead it's first down. Detroit drives down the field, touchdown, and that was basically the game-winning touchdown. So it was the fumble by Aaron Jones, as well as the stupid penalties by the Green Bay Packers, which basically ended the season for the Green Bay Packers. The Packers don't have anybody to blame but themselves. They are the reason why they are vacationing in Cancun right now. We're not playing in San Francisco on Saturday afternoon. It's because of those stupid penalties, as well as just the fumble by Aaron Jones, the mistakes that really cost them this football game. Congratulations to Detroit. And like I said in our group chat, I'm glad that the Niners are playing the Seahawks instead of the Packers, because I don't care how much ownage the Niners have over the Packers in Aaron Rodgers' career. I would rather face Geno Smith any day of the week over Aaron Rodgers.
Ben, I'm going to get to you here. I mean, we talked about the Packers, and Justin had a interesting comment right here. He thinks that Aaron Rodgers should retire. I'm like, yeah, I agree. I mean, it's time to turn the page to Jordan Love, and I think Aaron Rodgers might retire, which I would not be shocked about. I think you got to get younger quarterback, even though Matt LaFleur is like, of course I want Aaron Rodgers to be my quarterback next year. He's just saying it just to be nice. But I feel like Matt LaFleur needs to start developing his own quarterback, Ben. But as for the Lions, this team last year has come a long way. They were like 3-11-1. And this year they were 9-8. And you talk about the rebuild plan for Dan Campbell. It's paid off, Ben. What are your thoughts?
If I had to substitute any team in the NFC for the Detroit Lions, I would absolutely sign me up for that. This team was by far one of the most fun, exciting teams I watched basically the whole NFL season. It's unfortunate they didn't make the playoffs this year, but do not rule it out within the next 1 to 2, 3 seasons that you see this Detroit Lions team in the playoffs. I mean, really, with the way that Dan Campbell really turned this program around with this season, Jared Goff, we'll have to kind of see about what they kind of do with him, but he put on an absolute great show this year. I mean, he really got a lot of criticism for years in terms of, he's not the person that, is going to get you deep. He's going to get you far. He's just a stopgap, which, I mean, I can understand to a degree here and there, but, he had great guys around him. Amon-Ra St. Brown was absolutely a great receiver for him. One of the most underrated receivers, I think, really to me in the game. Jamal Williams was one of the top rushing touchdown leaders for the season. They had TJ Hawkinson before he went to the Minnesota Vikings, but their tight end game was really great as well, too. They had some decent pieces on defense. Of course, you drafted Aiden Hutchinson. So, I mean, that foundation as a whole, it's a lot of young, talented type of players. And, I mean, I really liked that core for a while and for a long period of time. So, if you're a Lions fan out there, I got to tip my cap to you guys. You guys are going to have a great season for years to come. You guys had a great season this year. And, keep your head up because, of course, you didn't make it this year, but you should be really proud in terms of how far you've come after being suffering for so many years. And in terms of the Packers, death taxes Aaron Rodgers took in the playoffs once again. When the time had to come, I mean, the Packers as a whole, I think they got to move on from Rodgers. And yes, I know that, of course, my guy Tom Brady probably has to move on at some point too. But Aaron Rodgers, really, I think his time in Green Bay should be moved on because I think that LaFleur is probably going to stick around for them. I think Jordan Love should get a really fair share of starting for the Green Bay Packers. I think you saw some signs this year with the Green Bay Packers that with Christian Watson. They probably will move on for Allen Lazard. We'll see about Randall Cobb, but I don't know, kind of with the way that he was kind of walking after the game too. It's almost like he kind of took it in for potentially another last time. Of course, that could just be on a PR thing, but I really think that Aaron Rodgers needs to move on from the Green Bay Packers, whether it's by retirement or by moving on via trade or something like that, because I think you get a lot back for him. And I know that the saga last year was just kind of all PR nonsense, so it could be the same as this year. But I think it's time for Jordan Love to get a starting job, or else I think he should request a trade, because I think he deserves to be a starter in this league for what they picked him for. So congratulations to the Lions for that win, and to spoil the Packers' hopes to get into the playoffs. I think they really deserve it, even though that they got eliminated in bounds from Seattle's victory. But they got a great future ahead in terms of the Packers. They got a lot of questions to kind of fill in. Of course, it headlines with the future of Aaron Rodgers.
And Nate, before we talk about a brief recap of the college football playoff national championship game, what was your thoughts on this Lions-Packers game? I said the Lions, their rebuild plan is coming along nicely. And as for the Packers, Aaron Rodgers, much as I like the guy and respect the way he has played in this league here, man, you know, the Green Bay Aaron Rodgers is probably gonna retire at some point, which I think he should, because I think it's time to start the Jordan Love era.
Well, I have a lot of things to say about this. Starting off on the joking matters, I think Aaron Rodgers heard the word playoffs and decided to give me a birthday present and choke one game early. So, on a serious note, though, I think, after hearing some of his post-game stuff and post-game conference, I think he's done. I think he is done from the game of football, period. I think this is the last time you saw him as a Green Bay Packer. I don't see how he can come back to – I can see how he can come back to Green Bay. I don't see where else he would go. And as for the Jordan Love era, I'm sorry, but that's not gonna go very well either. Green Bay is just, they're rough in the mix. I think, although the last thing I will have to say about the Packers, I've heard some coaching rumors that the Packers are wanting Nathaniel Hackett back as their offensive coordinator. And to tell you the truth, I think they're only wanting Nathaniel Hackett back as their offensive coordinator so that Aaron Rodgers can come back for another season.
Interesting.
But I don't think Rodgers will.
Yeah, you're right. I think he's already past his prime, but we won't spend too much on this next topic here, folks. You talk about the Georgia Bulldogs defeating TCU by a landslide. This game was just over in the second half. I don't have a lot to say on this. Isaiah, go ahead. I know you are a happy camper with your Georgia Bulldogs winning back-to-back. And although I love my Tide, I love my guy Nick Saban, but I have a ton of respect for Kirby Smart and what he's doing at Georgia. Former Saban assistant, and I think Kirby Smart has led Georgia to new heights, and you talk about the best college football team. I have to admit, it might have been passed to Georgia now. You're on mute.
How about those Georgia Bulldogs, y'all? How about those Georgia Bulldogs? Last year's championship when Georgia beat Alabama, that will mean the world to me because of all the times that Georgia had lost to Alabama, and a lot of the times it was in choking fashion. So last year's championship will always mean the absolute world to me. But in terms of this one, this championship, Georgia sent a loud and clear message to the rest of the college football universe that, hey, Alabama's been the standard of college football for years and years and years. But now the baton has been passed from Nick Saban to Kirby Smart. Georgia, I believe right now, is now the new standard of college football. They went 14-1 last year, 15-0 this season. won back-to-back national championships, 29-1. I mean, it's just crazy how much success that Georgia's had the last couple of seasons. And you can say, like, oh, yeah, Georgia's had a lot of talent. Yeah, that's right. They've had a lot of talent. But like we've seen in so many schools, when you have talent, it doesn't mean all that you're guaranteed a national championship. You look at Texas A&M. They had the top recruiting class in the nation last season, but they didn't even make the playoffs. They didn't even make a bowl game. They didn't even have a winning record. So you need to have great talent, and you need to have great coaching as well as a great culture in your program as well. And when you look at this national championship game, yeah, I think we can all agree this was probably the most boring national championship game of our lifetime. I mean, it was 38-7 at halftime. It was basically over at halftime. I don't know, Ben and Nate and Laurel, they can tell you guys when they thought that this game was over. But for me, I thought it was over when it was 38-7 at halftime. I thought that it was over with at that point, but 65-7. TCU's defense couldn't stop Georgia to save their life. I think Georgia only had like one punt the entire game. Georgia was just driving the football down the field. They were bullying TCU in the trenches all game long. It wasn't even funny to watch. And, you know, Georgia is the best team in college football right now. They're the best program in college football. They are the standard in college football. And I'm not going to say that Kirby Smart's better than Nick Saban right now, but I think in terms of overall, when it comes to the programs, I think Georgia has overtaken Alabama because, yeah, I know Alabama's got like 7 national championships under Saban, but guess what? Alabama the last 2 years, they've gone down. And now they have a lot of questions in terms of quarterback, who's going to replace Bryce Young and all of that. And Georgia's just loaded. I mean, they're going to be back next season with a 5-star quarterback who played the second half of that national championship game and actually looked really good. And they're going to be a well-oiled machine that's going to be back in there for another national championship race. So congratulations to Georgia. Congrats to TCU on an outstanding season. Kudos to Sonny Dykes. I mean, first-year head coach, goes into a program who was 5-7 and leads them to the national, leads them not only to the college football playoff, but to a national championship game. I mean, he did an outstanding job, but Georgia is just on a whole other level right now, and they are the best program in college football. And let me say this, since this is an NFL mostly based show, if I'm an NFL owner right now, I would be calling Kirby Smart's agent. I would be calling the University of Georgia, and I would be calling Kirby Smart himself to try to get an interview with that man, because Kirby Smart is not just a rah-rah great recruiter. He's a rah-rah great motivator, great leader, and he is a great defensive mind. He reminds me a lot of Robert Saleh. I think if you put Robert Saleh in college football, I think you would see Robert Saleh have pretty much the same success as Kirby Smart. Kirby Smart is basically like Robert Saleh. If Kirby Smart went to the Broncos, if he went to a team with a well-established quarterback, I don't think that we can rule out the possibility of him winning a Super Bowl. That's how great of a coach that he is. I think that if you're an NFL team, I think you got to at least inquire about his availability and interest in potentially leaving Georgia. And also, Stetson Bennett. Let me give him some love as well, because that kid deserves it. One of the best quarterbacks to ever play at Georgia, just underrated, very a guy that was doubted so much. He needs to be in the NFL next season. He needs to at least have a backup job, because there's no way you can't tell me that out of all the quarterbacks that are in the NFL, the 90 quarterbacks that are there with starters, backups, third stringers, there's no way that Stetson Bennett doesn't have a place in the NFL. There's no way. I mean, look at what Brock Purdy's doing right now. We've seen, and Brock Purdy has shown us that if you put a quarterback in the right system, and Stetson Bennett has played in an NFL-style system under Todd Monken, the offensive coordinator, that he can have success, and he can have lots of success. And it's all about the system in the NFL. And I hope Stetson Bennett gets drafted. He deserves it. And the last thing I'll say about this game is Brock Bowers is the next George Kittle / Travis Kelce. And I think Ben and Nate and Laurel would agree with me. But Brock Bowers is an absolute monster. He is a beast. This dude is a sophomore right now, and he's trucking over people left and right. He's going up making athletic catches. He made this one-handed catch the last game, which I was really impressed by. I mean, this dude, it's unfair what he's doing in college football, and it's unfair that he has another year of eligibility left because he needs to be in the NFL. I mean, that dude would truck grown men right now in the NFL. So congratulations to Georgia, another title for the Bulldogs, and I mean, Georgia's now the cream of the crop in college football.
You're absolutely right. But, Isaiah, I still love my Tide. I know that we might not be as dominant as we were once before, but this Tide team will be competitive. This team will play in bowl games, of course, but I am hopeful that next year's our year.
I mean, yeah, we'll see what happens, but I think that the two teams that you could definitely put, or there's three teams that you could definitely put on top in the playoffs is Georgia, Ohio State, and Alabama. I mean, they're always there, but like we saw this year, there's a lot of parity in college football, but at the end of the day, Georgia and Alabama are always going to rule college football.
Absolutely. And Nate, Ben, do you guys have anything to say about this?
I got to congratulate Isaiah because I know that Georgia beat my Ohio State Buckeyes. Me and Steven, of course, was a little somber, but I was in vacation, so I had to be a little excited. It was also New Year's Eve, too, so I might have had maybe an extra beer than I wanted to after that game was over. But with that still being the case, yeah, I really thought that Ohio State, Georgia, to me, was the national championship. I'm not even saying that for myself as a biased Ohio State fan. That game, the two semifinal games overshot the national championship. And I know, Isaiah, you could be saying, well, why Georgia Bulldogs won the whole thing. I think anybody who wins 65-7 really would take anything for a closer game than that. I mean, yes, you won the national championship, but to be fair, people are going to say, well, why wasn't Alabama in the national championship? No offense to you, Lauro, but I think TCU, they beat Michigan. They got it in fair and square. They just didn't show up. It was fair and simple. They just not show up. I give a lot of props to Stetson Bennett. That guy is a two-time national championship winner. I mean, this guy is a winner. He might not put up the monster numbers here and there, but when the time comes, man, I mean, even when they played Ohio State, when there was a drive needed, he had to come back, I think, from two-time deficits against Ohio State's defense, which don't remind me about, but still, he legitimately was putting on a clinic, when the time came. So the guy, you should never doubt him. We'll have to kind of see where he goes in the round in terms of the draft, but the guy's really great. Kirby Smart is really turning into the next big thing in college football. Especially now if Jim Harbaugh potentially finds a job in the NFL, you kind of can look at the whole landscape of the college football coaches, of course, outside of Saban. Kirby Smart's really the main guy that people should take a look at and give the respect where credit's due. TCU, I still think, is a really solid team. But, yeah, I mean, I'm really curious to see about Quentin Johnson for the receiver out of the draft. I was a little surprised that they didn't really target him as much. I did – reason why was because I got home from, I believe I was at CVS during the first quarter of the game, and I turned, I'm like, this game's already over. It was like 20-7 already. I'm just like, why bother? I think I was watching NBA basketball like the rest of the night, which I was really anticipating that happening, but still, here we are. But yeah, I mean, Georgia made a huge statement, 65 points. You don't do that just by accident. And, yeah, just absolute monster of a showing. And we'll see about college football next year. I already miss it. But now with a lot of coaching hires, a lot of former potential coaches going to the NFL. So I know we'll go into that in a little bit. But I think I'm going to go, head to bed for the night. I appreciate y'all for having me, and I'll still stay on here to hear what you guys have for the remainder of the show. Thank you guys once again.
Oh, and you'll give us your picks on the comment section for the Super Wildcard Weekend?
Sure do. I'm curious to see what you guys all had. So I'll be on for the next show. And thank you all once again for having me on, and talk to you guys soon.
All right. Good night, Ben. And Nate, I'll go to you next year. What is your thoughts on the national championship game?
I thought it was over when it was 17-7. To be honest, it did not look really well for TCU. I really underestimated Georgia's defense in that game. TCU did not show up at all. Although when I did make my picks, I did have Georgia put up that many number of points. Although I thought TCU was gonna get like 40 points higher too, to be like more like a 62-47 or something like that. Yeah, I had Georgia scoring that much, but I thought TCU was going to score a lot more, and I was wrong. I underestimated TCU's defense.
Anyways, folks, now we're going to go back to the NFL. We're going to talk about some of the reaction to these fired head coaches. On Sunday night, as you all know, the Houston Texans have fired Lovie Smith after one season, so he and Nathaniel Hackett were both in the one-and-done category. And then since 2019, Cliff Kingsbury has been the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals, and he has been relieved of his duties. Isaiah and Nate, we're going to be playing our head coaching games here. Was this not a surprise at all?
Oh,
Isaiah, you go first. They're having a little trouble, Isaiah, here. We'll go to Nate first. Was this a surprise to you when Cliff Kingsbury and Lovie Smith both got relieved of their head coaching duties?
Lovie Smith, yes. I think really because it happened so quickly. He got fired not like they hopped on the plane and then right when they touched down, he ended up getting fired after they did not get the number 1 overall draft pick, which is the reason I think Lovie Smith got fired.
And what about Kingsbury? Were you surprised at all about his firing too?
No, I called it from the very beginning. I did not. He was gonna be gone. One of the first ones gone.
Yeah, it was somewhat of a quiet Black Monday. And Isaiah, we have some Black Monday news to talk about here. Were you shocked at all when Lovie Smith was one and done in Houston, and Kingsbury getting relieved in Arizona?
For Lovie Smith, I was a little bit shocked at the time that the Texans played the Colts and they won that game. But after the game and after seeing a reaction of the owner, Cal McNair, of them winning the game after getting the 2-point conversion, I wasn't, because he was extremely pissed off. You could see he was not a happy camper after the Texans won and they lost the number 1 pick to the Bears. I think I agree with Nate. I think that's why he got fired, was because he went for 2. He played to win that game when the Texans wanted to tank and get the number 1 pick, and he defied the owner, and they won the game, thus costing them the number 1 pick. And I think that's why he got fired. About Kingsbury, like I said when I talked about the Niners-Cardinals game, I'm not surprised, because I thought that Kingsbury had to go because the Cardinals franchise was just in such disarray. There was so much chaos. The team wasn't responding well to him. There were so many penalties, and I wasn't surprised. I think that both of these two coaches, they deserve to be fired. Lovie, I think that Kingsbury deserves to get fired more than Lovie Smith, because Lovie Smith, I mean, you can't really do anything with the Texans right now because they're rebuilding, and any coach that would have gone there, even Bill Belichick, if Bill Belichick was coaching the Texans this year, they would have only won like 2 games. So I don't think it was a fair firing, but I just felt like once the number 1 pick was gone, because of his decision to go for 2, I think that the owner was just like, yeah, you defied me. Well, you're out of a job now.
Anyways, guys, our question of the day for this coaching carousel topic is: the Chargers and Rams might be having a vacant coaching opening here, because Sean McVay might retire and take a step back and work as a color commentator for one of the networks. and Brandon Staley is facing a lot of pressure heading into the game on Sunday, which we're going to save that Brandon Staley question for when we make our predictions. But Isaiah, do you think we will see the Rams and Chargers have vacant head coaching positions?
The Rams, yes, because there were a report yesterday, and I think Ben sent it out, that Sean McVay is letting all of his assistants interview for whatever jobs and take whatever jobs. That seems to me that he's leaving. Because if you're coming back, there's no way that you would let that happen, and you would have to replace like 10, 15 assistants. There's no way. So I think McVay is a guaranteed goner from the Los Angeles Rams. About Staley, I don't know. If he wins a playoff game, no. But if he loses, I think all bets are off at that point.
Yeah, because the question is, like, if they lose to the Jags, do you think he is out as Chargers head coach?
If they lose, I think it's 50-50 because of the Sean Payton effect. You know, Sean Payton, that would be a really, really attractive situation for him. He goes there. You got Justin Herbert, who is he's already one of the best young quarterbacks in the NFL. You got Keenan Allen there. You have Mike Williams. On defense, you got Joey Bosa. You have Khalil Mack. You have Derwin James. I mean, you have a loaded team. I think Sean Payton would definitely take that over in a heartbeat. So I could see it. I could definitely see it.
Yeah, and what leads me to say here, Nate, we talk about, do you think one of these LA teams or between the Rams and the Chargers will have a head coach in the opening?
Without spoiling my wild card pick, I think they both will fire. I think both coaches will be gone next year. Either for Sean McVay, I think he's probably going to go ahead and take that analyst job, unless if Dallas had an opening. Then I think
that might be.
I think McVay might go out and take the Cowboys job.
Yeah, and what about the Chargers? If they lose to the Jags, does that mean Brandon Staley? Do you think Brandon Staley might be gone?
If they lose to the Jags, yes, but I wouldn't be saying this if Brandon Staley had rested all of the starters last week against us. Because now, hey, they started some of their starters, and he ends up in his wide receiver is now injured heading into this game. That's not going to help at all. I mean, I don't want to spoil my picks, but I guess I'm going to have to. I think Jaguars take this and Brandon Staley's gone.
Anyways, now, folks, we got to talk about the head coach openings for the Denver Broncos here. Sean Payton is one of the finalists here, along with Jim Harbaugh, Dan Quinn, Ejiro Evero, D'Amico Ryans, and Raheem Morris. Jim Harbaugh is basically on the top of their list, Isaiah. And if Sean Payton misses out on Denver, would you be shocked? Would you be shocked if Payton passes up? Would you be shocked if it was Jim Harbaugh?
No, I wouldn't, because I think that out of all the jobs, I believe that Denver's job is the most attractive. I think that if you're Jim Harbaugh and if you're Sean Payton, Russell Wilson, I think, showed you enough the final couple of games after Nathaniel Hackett was fired that it's not his fault that he was so bad. It was because of Nathaniel Hackett's awful game plans, awful offense, and awful scheme that why Russell Wilson was so bad. I mean, they put up 31 points on the Chargers, and the Chargers were playing their starters, and Russell Wilson looked really, really good in that football game. So I think that Sean Payton and Jim Harbaugh, they should look at this job and be like, hey, we got a great defense, that they have there in Denver. On offense, you have Russell Wilson, who is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL when he's healthy and when he's right. And then the running backs, you have Javonte Williams, who is an absolute monster. in his rookie season, and he was, balling out before he got hurt. Wide receivers, they got Jerry Jeudy, who just had his best season of his career. They have Cortland Sutton there. They have a lot of great pieces that they can work with in Denver. If they can shore up their offensive line, I think the Denver Broncos, with a Sean Payton or Jim Harbaugh, no doubt in mind, I think that they could be a Super Bowl contender.
What about you, Nate? I mean, I know that Nathaniel Hackett's fired, and I know you hope about Jerry Rosburg potentially getting the full-time job. There's now reports that Jim Harbaugh and Sean Payton are now on the top of the list of the Denver Broncos. What are your thoughts?
Sean Payton, if he gets that job, is not going to work out too well. I'm just saying that because, I'm just saying that because we're going to have to trade again. As for the coaching itself, that's probably, having Sean Payton probably might be better than Jerry Rosburg. However, as a roster, looking at the roster and the business aspect of all this, I think that it's not going to work out very well if Sean Payton is our head coach. As for Jim Harbaugh, and I said this with the Russell Wilson trade last year, if Jim Harbaugh gets hired, I could see that going out really well. But I can also see that going very badly.
And also, the MI6 Sports Network put out there that David Shaw, the former Stanford coach, also interviewed for that job, and he is also a potential candidate as well. Next up, guys, we're going to have fun with this. We are going to play the game called Predicting which each head coach will be filling out which vacant spot here. All right. First up, we got the Arizona Cardinals on our list. I'm going to go first. My pick to be the next head coach of the Arizona Cardinals is, I'm picking Tampa Bay Buccaneers offensive coordinator Byron Leftwich. And I say that because he was a one-time quarterbacks coach and offensive coordinator for the Cardinals. And the reason why I want him to get a head coaching job there, I really think that he can really make Kyler Murray an elite quarterback in the league. And I really think he is a developer of quarterbacks. And I really think Byron Leftwich can fit in Arizona. Isaiah, who do you like as the new head coach of the Arizona Cardinals? I know you may or may not like my prediction of Byron Leftwich as the next head coach of the Arizona Cardinals.
For me, this is not my prediction, but this is who I would hire. I would hire Mike LaFleur, the guy that just recently got fired by the Jets. I think that the Jets scapegoated him. I think it was a terrible decision. I think that Mike LaFleur is one of the best minds in the game of football, and I think that he is a guy that I would definitely target, and I definitely would want calling plays and running my offense if I was any team in the NFL. But having said that, the guy that I think that they will hire, I don't think it's going to be Mike LaFleur. I'm actually going to go with a crazy pick to start off with. They have a general manager opening as well as a head coaching opening. I think that the Arizona Cardinals will hire the guy that the Denver Broncos just interviewed. I think they'll hire David Shaw to be their next head coach. And David Shaw will go from being the Stanford Cardinals coach to the Arizona Cardinals coach. He set up very well in Arizona. You got DeAndre Hopkins there, Marquise Hollywood Brown. You have Kyler Murray. The Cardinals need discipline and they need structure. And David Shaw would bring that. I think David Shaw works better in the NFL than he would in college football. Plus, he could also bring in his own GM. And also, David Shaw is very well regarded in the NFL. A lot of teams have been wanting to get David Shaw for many, many years. So I just think that with the Cardinals, what they need is discipline and structure. It's not offense or defense. You tried Kingsbury already. You need a coach that can be a head coach and set a culture. I think that David Shaw worked extremely well there as a member of the Arizona Cardinals. I think it's a perfect fit.
I could see where you're going with it because he can bring in fresh ideas. And I think if David Shaw were the head coach, he really can make Kyler Murray a better quarterback and help fix him than what Kingsbury did with him.
Exactly. And I think that a lot of these coaches that jump from college to the NFL,
As you know, before you go on, sorry, as you know, Kyler Murray is going to have input on the next head coach of the Arizona Cardinals.
yeah. Yes, he definitely will. And I just think that even, David Shaw's a no-nonsense coach. You won't be if you want to play Call of Duty and, whatever video games that you want to play, David Shaw's not going to allow that. It's all about football for him. So I think it's a perfect fit for Arizona. Plus, I think Arizona, since Kyler's going to be out probably the first month of the season, that pro-style run-heavy attack, where you don't really lean on the quarterback too much, I think will be a big help to them. And you have James Conner there who can definitely run that offense with ease.
And I'm going to get to Mike LaFleur with you for a little bit. I agree with you 100%. He should have not gotten fired as the offensive coordinator of the Jets. He got scapegoated. I didn't think Robert Saleh would have wanted to do this.
This was a Woody Johnson decision. I guarantee you that right now. Matt LaFleur and Mike LaFleur have known Robert Saleh ever since they were kids. Mike LaFleur, I believe, was his best. No, Matt LaFleur was Robert Saleh's best man at Robert Saleh's wedding, and Mike LaFleur was heavily involved. There's no way that Saleh wanted to fire him. Saleh even said himself that, he backed him. He gave him a great, recommendation, and he said that, look, Kyle Shanahan could have easily fired me when I was in San Francisco and we struggled on defense our first 2 years, but he didn't. He kept with the process, and then we ended up going to the Super Bowl the next season. So this was a Woody Johnson decision. Woody Johnson needed someone to take the fall, and unfortunately it was Mike LaFleur. I think Mike LaFleur will bounce back. Hopefully comes back to the Niners, because the Niners could definitely use his offensive expertise to help out, or he can go to Green Bay and coach with his brother. But Mike LaFleur hopefully gets back on his feet. But I'm telling you right now, if I was any NFL owner or if I was any athletic director of a college football team, I would hire Mike LaFleur to be my head coach. I think this guy has what it takes. I think that this guy is a tremendous offensive mind. Yeah, he didn't show much of that in New York because he was hindered by a bad quarterback. But if you give him a quarterback, if you give him a competent quarterback, I think that he will show out that he's a really good offensive mind, and he'll be a really good head coach. And the Jets just made a terrible decision by firing him. And I think that this is like the equivalent of the Eagles letting Andy Reid go. This guy, he's going to be big time in the future. Just book it right now. He is going to be big time, and it's just a matter of time until he lands a head coaching job.
And Nate, I'm going to go with you. Who is your prediction on who will be the next head coach of the Arizona Cardinals?
I think the next head coach I'm going to go. I have a feeling that Sean Payton is going to be a very, very considered in this process, because Sean Payton has been the Saints head coach for years, and Sean Payton has a Super Bowl win. And so I think that's really what Kyler Murray wants to go for. But I heard your Byron Leftwich pick, and I'm actually kind of liking that.
Yeah, he really would. I think he would make a great head coach if you look at it. He could have coached the Jets until
the Cardinals, and I kind of like that.
Until Doug Peterson took that. But you're going with Byron Leftwich too?
I'm going with Byron Leftwich.
All right. So basically, we have a split decision here about the Arizona Cardinals prediction on who their next head coach will be. Next up, we got the Carolina Panthers on who should be their next head coach. Here are some of the candidates here, according to Tom Pelissero. Jim Caldwell interviewed for that position. Ken Dorsey did as well. Lions offensive coordinator Ben Johnson. Former Colts head coach Frank Reich also interviewed for that position as well. But I also have him being an offensive coordinator somewhere if Ken Dorsey brings one of Buffalo's assistants with him as the next head coach of the Carolina Panthers. Shane Steichen is one of the candidates on there, along with Mike Kafka, and also Panthers interim head coach Steve Wilks, who I have a feeling will stay as the defensive coordinator regardless of who the new head coach is in Carolina. All right, guys, let me tell you guys something who I like as the new head coach of the Carolina Panthers. I'm going to go with Buffalo Bills offensive coordinator Ken Dorsey, and I say that because he was a developer of quarterbacks there. He helped Cam Newton become a star. He was great under Ron Rivera as the quarterbacks coach. He knows that team well. I have a feeling that Ken Dorsey will be the head coach of the Panthers. He brings Joel Brady with him back to Carolina as their offensive coordinator, and then he keeps Steve Wilks as his defensive coordinator. Isaiah, you might like this pick. Who is your choice out of the list, the names I mentioned, and who is your choice to be the new head coach of the Carolina Panthers to replace Matt Rule?
I think it's going to be a guy that has NFL coaching experience or head coaching experience. Matt Rule didn't have that. He jumped right from college to the pros. And normally when an owner fires a coach, they always try to get the opposite of what that coach before that they had. So for me, I'm actually going to go with Frank Reich, the former Indianapolis Colts head coach. I think it makes a lot of sense. He's a quarterback developer. He is a guy that ran great offenses in Indianapolis. He got scapegoated in Indy, and he has head coaching experience, and he also took the team to the playoffs. So give me Frank Reich. I think that Frank Reich in Indianapolis is a match made in heaven, and I think that the Panthers get a coach that sets a culture, a coach that has been a head coach before, and a coach that is a really good offensive developer, game planner, and a guy that is when you put a rookie potentially going to be drafting like a C.J. Stroud or maybe
Will Levis or Anthony Richardson, then you would pair him with Frank Reich.
Yeah, you pair him with Frank Reich, and I think that it's a good start for them because it's a good experience. You have an experienced head coach, experienced offensive mind, going with a rookie quarterback. I just think it makes a lot of sense.
I'm going to tell you this, Isaiah. If Ken Dorsey coaches the Panthers and he brings in Joe Brady as his OC, keeps Steve Wilks, I have a feeling that Frank Reich could go back to Buffalo as the offensive coordinator.
Yeah, that could happen, and what a story that would be for sure.
Because I would want to. That's why I'm picturing a scenario where that. But your scenario is different than mine, and you want Frank Reich to take the Panthers job over Ken Dorsey.
Yes, I do.
Even though I like Ken Dorsey, I think Ken Dorsey's done a great job with the Bills under McVay. But I'm picturing a scenario that if Ken Dorsey is the head coach of the Panthers, he brings Joe Brady with him, and he retains Steve Wilks.
Yes.
Anyways, Nate, who do you like for the head coach of the Carolina Panthers?
I'm actually going to go with somebody else. Former Detroit Lions head coach that actually gave the Detroit Lions a winning record. I'm going to go with Jim Caldwell here. I really like what he's done with Detroit, and I really think that he can improve the Panthers' situation with that offensive line. I think that team is going to be very offensive minded. I like Jim Caldwell to the Panthers. It's where I see this going.
I wouldn't be shocked at that. I mean, Carolina's looking for veteran coaches, like Isaiah said. And you said David Tepper's looking for that big name.
He is looking for that big name. And Frank Reich's not the biggest name in the world, but guess what? He made the playoffs. So he has playoffs on his resume.
That's what I think so too. Now we go to Nathaniel's team, the Denver Broncos. I'm actually going to start off with who I want as the new head coach of the Denver Broncos. Isaiah, you may or may not like this. I am picking Cowboys defensive coordinator, former Atlanta Falcons head coach Dan Quinn to coach the Denver Broncos and reunite with Russell Wilson. I see this move because I think Dan Quinn can work with this Denver Broncos defense, with the defensive staff, and I think he will hire Darrell Bevell from the Miami Dolphins, their passing game coordinator and quarterbacks coach, to serve as offensive coordinator so that you have that Seattle connection in Denver again. And Russell Wilson, I know he has had a fantastic relationship with Darrell Bevell, and Darrell Bevell, Russell Wilson really loves Darrell Bevell's West Coast scheme. I know I know that you may not like that pick, Isaiah. Go ahead. Who is your choice to be the new head coach of the Denver Broncos?
You guys ready for this?
Yeah.
The new head coach of the Denver Broncos will be Sean Payton. I think that it makes a lot of sense. Sean Payton does not want to coach a rebuild. He wants to coach a team that has it ready made. The Denver Broncos have a great defense. They have a lot of pieces there. Justin Simmons, to name a few. And then on offense, Russell Wilson is proving that Nathaniel Hackett was the real problem in Denver. It wasn't that Russell Wilson was washed. It was that Nathaniel Hackett's garbage offensive game plans were making Russell Wilson look washed. And plus they have Javonte Williams. They have Cortland Sutton. They have, they have Jerry Jeudy there as well. They have pieces. They need to fix their offensive line, but they have the pieces, and the Broncos ownership, the Penner family and the Waltons, they want to swing big. They have a lot of money in their pockets. They just put in $100 million and installed a new field for the final game of the season. That just tells you how much money that they have. They want to get a big fish, and I think that they're going to go after the biggest fish and land the biggest fish in Sean Payton. Yes, it'll cost them a first-round pick, but, hey, it will be worth it because Sean Payton and Russell Wilson, man, oh, my God, that equals Super Bowl.
And Isaiah, did you respectfully disagree with my Dan Quinn pick as the head coach of the Broncos, because I know he has familiarity with Russell Wilson?
I do. I respectfully disagree because I think he's third on their list. I think if they can't get Sean Payton, I think it's Jim Harbaugh, and if they can't get him, then I think it'll be Dan Quinn. But the Walton and Penner family, they're going for the big fish. They're going for the grand slam, and I said it, I think when the Broncos started like 0-5 or something like that, hey, Sean Payton would make a lot of sense for the Denver Broncos, and I'm sticking by my take. I think Sean Payton, I know they would probably have to trade a first-round pick and some other stuff as well, but the Broncos are a team that's ready to win now. They have a quarterback that's ready to win now, and they need a coach who's one of the best coaches in all of football, and, they need to go get him. So I think they'll do absolutely everything that they can to get him. And I think that, honestly, they'll give him, and Colin Cowherd said this on his show the other day, that the Penner and Walton family were prepared to offer Jim Harbaugh a $20 million per year contract. So if you're offering Jim Harbaugh $20 million per year, if you're going to go get Sean Payton, go offer him $30 million per year.
And what was your thoughts on when I said if Dan Quinn's the head coach of the Denver Broncos, Darrell Bevell would be offensive coordinator?
I don't like that take because I think that Darrell Bevell is a terrible offensive play caller and a guy that should not even coach college football or even high school football, because you saw what he made Trevor Lawrence look like the worst quarterback in the NFL. I mean, that's how pathetic his game plans were. The Broncos don't need another situation with a terrible game planner and a terrible offensive schemer. Go take a chance on a proven commodity that is Sean Payton, who wherever he goes, he has great offenses.
Sean Payton reportedly is wanting Vic Fangio to be his defensive coordinator. If Sean Payton goes to Denver, I wouldn't think Vic Fangio will be back in Denver.
No, I don't think he would be. And also Jim Harbaugh wants Vic Fangio as well. So if Harbaugh goes to Denver, I don't think Fangio will follow him. But I mean, if you're the Broncos, you have to win now. You spend so much money on Russell Wilson.
I'm talking about like if Payton were the head coach, who would join him as offensive coordinator? Who will join him as defensive coordinator? Because I'm thinking he might bring one of the Saints people with him, like Chris Rochard. He might bring with him.
He could. I mean, it's kind of tough because he had Dennis Allen. He's had a number of guys. So I don't know. I think if you're going to ask me now, I don't really think that the offensive coordinator really matters because I think that Sean Payton will be the guy mostly in charge of the offense. The defensive coordinator,
Probably maybe Greg Williams.
No, I don't think that he'll hire him because he's very disliked in the NFL. I mean, I'm trying to think of one, maybe Fangio, but I don't think he would go to Denver.
Fangio's right now in Philly as a defensive consultant, but he's probably going to be getting a lot of defensive coordinator interviews right now.
Yes, he will be. You know what? I don't really know, to be honest with you. No Justin, no Rex Ryan. No way that he'll work with Sean Payton. Ask me that later. I don't know.
Yeah, when we find out the hire. So, Nate, I'm going to go to you. Who is your pick to be the next head coach of your Denver Broncos?
I don't like the Sean Payton hire at all. We need the first round draft pick. I don't see that Sean Payton even is stepping near a Broncos playing field. Jim Harbaugh, I could see that going really well, but I can also see that going very, very bad because both Russell Wilson and Jim Harbaugh are very open-minded people. And so if the chemistry doesn't work well, that's going to probably be terrible. So I'm going to have to agree with you, Lauro. I got to go with Dan Quinn.
Yeah, that's what I think. I picked Dan Quinn as he's my choice to be the head coach of the Denver Broncos. Next up, guys.
I'm just saying I don't agree with you guys about the whole Vic Fangio take. I know that he got fired. I know he got fired at Denver, and I know I get that. But he was the head coach for the Broncos and not the defensive coordinator.
Yeah, he's a better defensive coordinator than a head coach.
So I think I can see Vic Fangio being a defensive coordinator for the Broncos, but I mean,
probably not Denver. It might be somewhere else. So, anyways, now, guys, we move on to the Houston Texans head coaching opening. The candidates are Ben Johnson, who I mentioned here, along with D'Amico Ryans, Ejiro Evero, Shane Steichen, and Jonathan Gannon are the names that are candidates to replace Lovie Smith. Hear me out, guys. My choice to be the new head coach of the Houston Texans and to replace Lovie Smith is one of Isaiah's guys. 49ers defensive coordinator D'Amico Ryans. I say that because, look, he played for the Texans. He's a guy that could turn the Houston Texans around in a heartbeat, but hey, the Texans are in a rebuild. He would be perfect for that spot. He was a star linebacker for the Texans, and I think that the players are going to get a lot out of D'Amico Ryans. Isaiah, I said I want D'Amico Ryans to be a head coach, and I want him to be the head coach for the team that he once played for in the Houston Texans.
I like that pick, Laurel, but unfortunately, I'm gonna have to disagree with you on that, and I'm gonna select a guy that probably is gonna shock you guys because he's nowhere near even getting talked about as a head coaching candidate or even an offensive coordinator candidate. But he would be a guy that would be a puppet for Nick Caserio. And Nick Caserio, this is a guy that he needs to get right. He needs to get his head coaching hire right. And I think he's going to hire a guy that was with the Patriots. And, it's not Brian Flores, although that would be a great fit. Get ready for this, y'all. It's going to be someone from the offensive side of the ball, and it's going to be a guy that has connections to Nick Caserio. The next head coach of the Houston Texans is going to be Chad O'Shea. I got the Texans stunning the world and hiring him because I feel like Nick Caserio wants control of everything in that football operations. He wants to be the next Belichick. He wants to get all the credit. So what is he going to do? Hire a puppet as a head coach. And he's going to hire Chad O'Shea, who right now is the wide receivers coach and passing game coordinator of the Cleveland Browns. And he got a lot of familiarity with him. I think they both went to college together. It just makes a lot of sense for it not to happen. And Nick Caserio, he's going to hire a guy who he's very familiar with, and they both can go down if the ship ends up going down.
I mean, if Chad O'Shea's a head coach, I'm like, I'd be happy for him. And I have a lot of faith in Nick Caserio, coming from a Pats fan myself, that he is going to do a great job down in Houston. But you said, Isaiah, he wants a puppet. And I'm surprised about that.
Yeah, exactly. He wants a puppet. And I that's why I thought Josh McDaniels would be a good fit, but he went to the Raiders.
And with Dave Ziegler too.
Dave Ziegler as well. But I'm just looking at it. I think he wants a puppet. And I think that he's familiar in New England. Those familiarities. And I just think that it makes too much sense for it not to happen given the Patriot connections.
But you like the DeMeco Ryans hire because I've told you he's played for Houston, and I think he would do a great job. And I know he would earn the trust of the McNair family.
I do. I like the hire, but I disagree with it because I think Nick Caserio wants a puppet.
Oh my gosh, that's going to make Cal McNair not look good. What about you, Nate? Who do you like as the new head coach of the Houston Texans?
I seem to be agreeing with a lot of your coaching picks today. I'm actually going with DeMeco Ryans as well, mainly because the city of Houston with their sports seems to be giving off of a I don't know. I normally don't use this word, but a bad vibe. Especially recently. They fired a head coach because they didn't get the number 1 overall draft pick. When the reality is, the team that has the number 1 overall draft pick probably won't use it on the quarterback, and that's what they really need the most. So, dumb move by the Houston Texans, but I think a way to turn that around is by hiring a guy who played for your team. And can give a little bit more pride with that organization. I think DeMeco Ryans is the very good. Is where I see this going.
All right, guys. The next head coach position that we'll talk about here, we're going to go to the Indianapolis Colts. I mean, Isaiah is probably going to be going crazy again with this pick. I'm going to actually start it off. The candidates are Aaron Glenn, the Lions defensive coordinator. Ejiro Averio, the defensive coordinator of the Denver Broncos. Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator of the Lions, who I think is going to be is a good candidate too. Raheem Morris is on that list too, along with the guy who I like calling the Colts the Fighting Jeff Saturdays. Jeff Saturdays is a candidate for the head coaching job, even though he was the interim head coach. And when the Colts picked him, that's why I like calling the Colts the Fighting Jeff Saturdays. And then you have Shane Steichen. Well, I'm going to go with Isaiah and Ben and Nate. Here is my pick for who I think will be the new head coach of the Indianapolis Colts. He's gotten overlooked these last 3 years. And I said he has had a connection and familiarity to GM Chris Ballard from their days in Kansas City. And I want him to get a head coaching job so badly because I think he's going to be a great leader of men. He will hire an offensive coordinator that will be in charge of calling the plays offensively and also developing a quarterback. Give me Eric Bieniemy as the new head coach of the Indianapolis Colts. And I say that because Eric Bieniemy is a leader of men. Eric Bieniemy can really develop players. The players are going to get a lot out of him. He's not going to be the one calling plays. He's going to hire an offensive coordinator that can be a good play caller on that side of the ball and a good quarterbacks coach that can help him with that style of play here. And then I think he retains Gus Bradley as his defensive coordinator. Isaiah, who do you like as the new head coach of the Indianapolis Colts? And you know my choice was Eric Bieniemy because of Chris Ballard.
A Colts legend will be returning home. And no, it's not going to be Jeff Saturday. It's going to be the guy who has his name retired at Lucas Oil Stadium, the guy who wore number 4. Jim Harbaugh will be the next head coach of the Indianapolis Colts. It makes too much sense for it not to happen. I mean, Jim Irsay loves the big name. Jim Harbaugh, big name. Jim Harbaugh has familiarity with the Colts. He played for the Colts. He was a legend with the Colts. He's got his name literally retired at Lucas Oil Stadium. He's won playoff games for the Indianapolis Colts. Why do you not want to go back to a franchise who you are a legend with and you can be seen as like a savior, like what he did with Michigan? He's a savior for Michigan. For the Colts, he would be the same. He would be a savior for the Colts franchise. So I think he goes back. I think it's just a matter of time until Jim Harbaugh gets an NFL coaching gig, whether it's with the Broncos or the Colts. But Jim Irsay, he wants that big name. And, he has a great relationship with Jim Harbaugh. And I think Jim Harbaugh will be the next head coach. And I think he keeps Jeff Saturday in, but as his offensive line coach.
And then you talk about Vic Fangio. If Jim Harbaugh is the head coach of the Colts, I think it's likely that Vic Fangio is the defensive coordinator.
Yeah, I agree. I think that he's going to be the defensive coordinator. If David Shaw doesn't get a head coaching job, even though I have him going to Arizona, I could see him being the offensive coordinator. But, yeah, I think that if Harbaugh goes to somewhere other than Denver, Fangio follows him for sure.
And then I talked about Gus Bradley. I said if Bieniemy's the head coach, I think Bradley gets retained as defensive coordinator because Gus Bradley's one of those guys that is well-liked, and he likes this rah-rah defense.
Yeah, I mean, I think that could make sense. He's a really good defensive mind, and I think he has head coaching experience, which would help Bieniemy as well.
Nate, I'm going to go to you. Who do you like as the new head coach of the Indianapolis Colts?
I'm actually going to agree with Isaiah here. I'm going with Jim Harbaugh as well. I really don't like what I think Jeff Saturday was there is more as a people's coach because they haven't really been ever when Frank Wright was there. I guess especially towards the end, he had the locker room together. And that's part of the reason why he got fired as the head coach. So they try to get in Jeff Saturday to do that, and I think it kind of got worse. So they want to hire a guy that's more strict, but also has, again, going back to the whole D'Amico Ryans pick, they want to hire a guy that also has connection with the roster. I mean, connection with the team, so he can bring back a little bit of pride. I think Jim Harbaugh is a perfect pick for the Colts.
Oh, Jim Irsay would want. Go ahead, Isaiah.
Well, let me also add this. Jeremy Fowler wrote in an article today that he talked to one official from a team that's currently searching for a head coach, and he believes that Jim Harbaugh wants the coach job. That's the job he really wants because since he's a legend in Indy. But there is no word yet on whether Harbaugh plans to speak with Indy's brass. But the connection is obvious because he's a former Colts quarterback.
Oh my gosh. And talk about what if CJ Stroud is his quarterback? Wouldn't that be something if CJ Stroud was Jim Harbaugh's quarterback in Indy?
The Ohio State-Michigan rivalry, man, comes together. Wow.
I would like that. I have the Colts getting CJ Stroud regardless of who the head coach is.
Gosh, that's crazy, man. That's crazy.
I have CJ Stroud being a Colt regardless of who the head coach is.
Yeah, I agree.
Next up, guys, there's been rumblings about Sean McVay leaving the Rams, but I'm going to tell you, I think the Rams stay in-house here on who their next – if Sean McVay leaves, I'm going to pick Raheem Morris as the new head coach of the LA Rams. If Sean McVay leaves, he won a Super Bowl ring with them, and I think Raheem Morris has the ability to be a good head coach, and I think he's going to be given a good roster. If you put it this way, I think he will thrive the second time around as a head coach in the NFL. Anyways, here, Isaiah, I'm going to go to you. Who is your pick for the Rams head coach, assuming Sean McVay leaves?
For me, I'm gonna go with a surprise. Actually, this is gonna be a massive shock to y'all. It's not gonna be Raheem Morris. I don't think they go in house, although I could see it. But for me, I'm actually gonna go. Well, technically, this would be in house. Because he coached there this season. Before he left. I'm actually going to go with Liam Cohen, the offensive coordinator of Kentucky.
Oh, he left. He's going to Kentucky right now.
Yeah. But I think if McVay does, in fact, if he leaves, I think that they'll definitely give Liam Cohen a call to be in the ranks because he coached under McVay. He knows what McVay is all about. He knows the Rams offense from top to bottom. So give me Liam Cohen. I think Liam Cohen would be a great fit as the head coach there. You know, he's a guy that a lot of people know is a great offensive mind or great young and coming offensive mind. And I just think that he's going to go to Kentucky, and then a month later he'll come back as a head coach.
Oh, man. How crazy is that? And Nate, before you go here, who do you like as the head coach of the Rams if, in fact, Sean McVay leaves?
I think it's just – I think the Rams just need to just rebuild, start from scratch from the beginning. And so I think they need to go for a guy that might be able to help them do that. Who I have in mind, I don't know. But I think that's really what they need to do is just start from scratch. Try to trade for a number one draft pick.
Ooh, okay.
Ooh, that's
not number one, but like first round is what I meant.
Anyways, Nate, thanks for hopping on, man, and have a good night.
All right.
We thank Nate for joining us here. So Isaiah, one more coaching prediction here. You actually have Sean Payton coaching the Broncos. If the Chargers, however, fire Brandon Staley, I'm picking Sean Payton to coach the Chargers. Who do you think coaches the Chargers if they move on from Brandon Staley?
Oh, wow. In that situation, here is Isaiah's craziest prediction of the night and of 2023 so far. If they move off of Brandon Staley, I don't think it's going to be another offensive coordinator or an up-and-coming defensive coordinator. It's going to be an established head coach who is used to winning. And the Chargers' job will be a damn good opening because you got Justin Herbert there. You've got the running back Eckler there as Austin Eckler as well. You got Mike Williams. You got Keenan Allen. You have Palmer, the receivers. You have Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack, Derwin James on the defensive side. You have a lot of great pieces to work with, and you can win a Super Bowl with this team. So having said that, the new coach of the Los Angeles Chargers, and it's going to hurt me to say this, but the new coach of the Los Angeles Chargers, Loro, get ready to maybe walk off the set. It's going to be Kirby Smart of the University of Georgia.
My God.
I am going to go with it right now because if they're going to fire Brandon Staley, it's going to be for a coach who is a big-time coach. And Kirby just won a national championship at Georgia. He won 65-7. If he goes to the NFL, it's going to be for a big fat check and for a team that has pieces on offense and defense that can win now. And this is a job that doesn't come available a lot often. I think that Kirby would jump at this if, in fact, it does come open.
Absolutely. But anyways, now it's time for the fun part. We are going to be predicting who will be winning Super Wild Card Weekend and who we like playing in the divisional round next week. Let's start with Saturday's games. The San Francisco 49ers are taking on the Seattle Seahawks. I'm going to go first with my pick. I'm picking the Niners. And I say that because the Niners finally have the Seahawks number. Brock Purdy, in his first start against Seattle, played great. And you know what? The Niners, they're hot right now. I think they're going to be moving on to the divisional round next week, Isaiah. And Isaiah, who do you like in this game? I know you're going to go 49ers. It's going to be a clean sweep here in this one.
Laurel, I'm kind of scared about this game. I'm not going to lie. Because if you look at the weather, it's going to be monsoon weather conditions at Levi Stadium on Saturday. It's going to be raining heavily throughout the game. It's going to be very windy, and it's going to be wet. So the Niners struggle with wet weather. If it was like clean, clear conditions, the Niners would easily beat the heck out of the Seattle Sea Chickens. But since it's going to be raining, since it's going to be wet, since it's going to be very slippery, since it's going to be windy, it's going to be a lot closer than a lot of people expect. I think that the Niners win this football game, but I'm scared that the rain is going to be a big factor. I think the Niners run all over the Seahawks. They're not going to be able to stop Christian McCaffrey. They're damn sure not going to be able to stop Elijah Mitchell. They're not going to be able to stop. I don't think Brock Purdy has to do much in this game because, it's going to be raining heavily, so you're not going to be able to to pass the football much. You're going to just run all day long, and I think the Niners win this game. Give me San Francisco to win. I'm going to go 17-7. It's going to be a really messy, ugly type game because of the rain. But I think that the Niners pull it out and win. It'll look close, but it's not really going to be close. I think the Niners dominate, but it'll be a messy game.
Well, we both have the Niners moving on to the divisional round, but who they play, it's to be determined right now. We'll go on to the AFC bracket, and this is the last of the Saturday games. You got Justin Herbert and the Chargers taking on Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars. I am going to pick the Jacksonville Jaguars to beat the Chargers because if you look at it, I really think that the Jaguars are hot right now. Brandon Staley is facing a lot of pressure. If he wins this game, his job is safe. Isaiah, who do you like in this matchup between the Jaguars and the Chargers? It's probably going to be another clean sweep right here.
Two of the NFL's best young quarterbacks going at it. Two of the NFL's elite offenses going at it. I think we're going to see a shootout in this game, and I don't really think there's going to be a lot of defenses in this game. Both these two teams have good pieces on defense, but I think it's going to be a lot of the quarterback. Give me the Jags to win this game. It's going to be loud in Jacksonville. It's their first playoff game since 2017 when they made it to the AFC Championship game. It's going to be loud. They've been thirsting for playoff football down there in Jacksonville. Trevor Lawrence's first playoff game. I don't expect him to be phased in this game. Give me the Jags to win it in a shootout. I go Jacksonville 34-27.
That's going to be a great football game. I can't wait for that. And Chardol says he's going for the Chargers over the Jags 45-42 on a game-winning field goal. I could see that, but we'll see. Yeah. But next up, we go to the Sunday games. I mean, the Miami Dolphins are lucky to be in the playoffs right now. Tua Tagovailoa is not playing due to a concussion. He's yet to clear concussion protocol. Skylar Thompson is looking like that he is going to be the starting quarterback for the Miami Dolphins. Man, I would have wanted to see Tua in a playoff game. But you know what? His health comes first in that concussions are not to be messed with. As much as I like this Dolphins team and with a healthy Tua Tagovailoa, I think the Bills will win regardless if Tua plays or not. And give me the Buffalo Bills in this one, although I hate to admit it here. I have the Buffalo Bills playing next week, but I'm going to save my pick on who they play next week. Who do you like, Isaiah, in this matchup?
I'm going to go with the Bills. I think the Bills dominate the Dolphins. I don't think it's even that close of a game. I think the Dolphins will hang in there in the first half, but I think the Bills run away with it in the second half. The Bills are just too good offensively. Tua's not playing. Tua played last game. He's not going to play this game. I don't believe much in Skylar Thompson. They only scored 6 points last game. The Bills are just going to stack the box to force Skylar Thompson to try to beat them, and he won't. So give me the Bills to win this game. I'm going to go Bills winning. Plus the Dolphins defense is not really that good. I'm going to go Bills winning this game 38-10.
Yeah, so basically Isaiah and I have 3 clean sweeps so far in Super Wild Card Weekend. Will there be a 4th? It's about to go down right now. The New York Giants are taking on the Minnesota Vikings. As much as I like this Vikings roster, don't get me wrong, this is a great roster. Kevin O'Connell has done a great job with this roster. This is a battle of 2 former Patriots that are going to go head-to-head here. Isaiah, you're going to like where I'm going to go with this. My pick in this game between the Giants and the Vikings, I think Kirk Cousins normally, he's a choker in the playoffs, and I don't really trust him in the playoffs. So I'm picking the New York Giants to beat the Minnesota Vikings. It's going to come down to a Graham Gano game-winning field goal at US Bank Stadium. And I think the Giants stun the Vikings in this game. And I think that Kirk Cousins is going to choke yet again. What about you, Isaiah? This is going to be 4 sweeps that we have.
Make it 4 sweeps in a row, baby. Give me the New York Football Giants and Danny Dimes to go into Minnesota, go into the Twin City, go into the land of the lakes, and stun the Minnesota Vikings. I have said it all year. I don't believe in the Vikings. They are frauds. They are frauds, and they are frauds. I don't believe in this Vikings team. They got lucky this season. They shouldn't even be in the playoffs right now. Kirk Cousins, like you mentioned, Loro, he is a choker come playoff time, come big moment time. And I think that Don Wink Martindale is going to have a great game plan on defense, plan for Kirk Cousins in this prolific offense of Minnesota. They'll shut them down. And I think the Giants offense make enough plays against the defense of Minnesota, which is not really that good. Give me the Giants to win it. I'm going to go New York 21. The Vikings 17.
No, I have Graham Gano kicking a game-winning field goal from 50 yards, and that's going to be 24-21. I have it around that line right there. And as much as I like this Vikings roster, Isaiah, I really like the players on the team, but this is kind of the moment that I don't trust Kirk Cousins. And I'm not saying it from a standpoint that I hate Minnesota like as much as you do. I think this is a great roster. But Kirk Cousins just doesn't.
Good roster. I'll give you that.
Offensively, they have a great roster. I like Justin Jefferson. I know he's going to have a good game, but I think Don Wink Martindale is going to come up with some great game plans and all that.
They have a great roster offensively, but if you look at the roster defensively, if they can't get any pass rush on the quarterback, it is over. Their secondary is a big, giant mess. They're led by Patrick Peterson, who's not what he once was. It is awful, man. I mean, Mac Jones was torching them. I guarantee you Bailey Zappi would have torched them. I guarantee you Brock Purdy will torch him when the time comes. So I don't believe in the Vikings. I think that the Giants offensive line is able to handle the Vikings defensive line. And I really believe at the end of the day, it's going to come down to Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley. I think Saquon Barkley has a big day, and I think Daniel Jones, the connection to Darius Slayton, the connection to Kenny Golladay, I think it's going to work out wonders for the New York Giants.
So I have the New York Giants because we have the Seahawks both eliminated in our brackets. With we predicted the New York Giants winning, I have them. We both have them playing the Philadelphia Eagles next weekend.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
And then we have the Niners playing either Tampa Bay or Dallas.
Yes. We'll give
next
those picks in a bit. Yep.
Next up, man, this is going. We have the Bills beating the Dolphins here, and then we have Jacksonville winning their game against the Chargers. So, in this matchup, could this be 5 straight sweep for us, Isaiah? I'm going to go first here. I'm going to pick the Bengals to beat the Ravens, and I say that because even if Lamar Jackson plays, I think the Bengals are more hungrier than Baltimore. This is the second week in a row that we will see this matchup because the Ravens played the Bengals last week in week 18, but the Ravens got shelled of themselves. So give me Joe Cool and the Cincinnati Bengals to win.
I'm going to go with the Bengals as well. Make that 5 sweeps in a row. Lamar most likely is not going to play. Even if he is, he's not going to be 100%. He's not going to be able to run the football as effectively as we're used to seeing. And the Bengals have a better passing attack. They have a better rushing attack than the Lamar-less Baltimore Ravens. The defense of the Ravens, I think, will keep it close. But in the end, Joe Burrow and the Bengals will be too much, and they'll break eventually. So give me Joe Cool and the Bengals to win this football game and advance to the next round.
Oh, absolutely. So, anyways, now we talk about who our divisional round matchups for next week is. So for me, I have the Jacksonville Jaguars taking on the Kansas City Chiefs, and I have the Cincinnati Bengals visiting the Buffalo Bills.
I have the same as well. I got the Jacksonville Jaguars going to Arrowhead to play the Kansas City Chiefs, and I have the Bengals going to Buffalo to play the Buffalo Bills.
Well, almost our NFC bracket is set. We both have the Giants playing the Philadelphia Eagles, and then the Niners are awaiting the winner of these two, of the winner of the Bucs and Cowboys Monday night game, which will end Super Wild Card Weekend. The Bucs, you talk about them, they are lucky to be in the playoffs. People were like, they should have not been in. Tom Brady looks like he's going to retire. I feel like he's going to retire at the end of the year. I think it's time for him to go to Fox, and I want to hear him be a color commentator next year, which I'm kind of in that mindset like you are, because Tom Brady's waiting for that color commentating job on Fox, which I think will be a great job. I think he'll be great at it. Won't you agree?
I do. I completely agree.
Because he knows his football, and I think he will work well with Kevin Burkhardt. I'm preparing for Tom Brady to be at Fox next year. And for the Cowboys, Jerry Jones said it. He doesn't think Mike McCarthy's job is on the line, even if they get out. What are your thoughts on that?
I think he's lying. I think he's protecting his coach, and he's trying to get the Cowboys focused on the NFC wildcard game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is a trap game because, yeah, Dallas is more talented, but the Buccaneers have Tom Brady, and they haven't clutched this season. So, I mean, I think he's lying. I think he's protecting his quarterback and his head coach. If they lose, I think that there's a good chance that Sean Payton is the next head coach of the Dallas Cowboys.
Are you saying that because Mike McCarthy has an inability to coach in the playoffs?
Not just that. This is Sean Payton we're talking about. This is a Super Bowl champion, one of the great offensive minds in the game of football. Like, he's way, way better than Mike McCarthy. And he was a Cowboy. Jerry Jones loves him very much. I expect that if the Cowboys lose, Sean Payton's the next head coach of the Cowboys by next week, Friday.
Well, but who wins this game here? We might not have a clean sweep here, Isaiah. I'm going to pick the Tampa Bay Bucks because of my guy, Tom Brady. I love him, and I want the Bucks to play the San Francisco 49ers next week. And, Isaiah, you might not have that matchup.
This is our only non-clean sweep of the night. The sweep is over. Give me the Dallas Cowboys. I think the Cowboys are more talented. I think that their offense is better. I don't believe the Buccaneers' defense will be able to handle the Cowboys' offense. I think it's going to be a good game. But I think in the end, Loro, Ben, if you're watching, sorry, but I think Tom Brady's career as a Buck is over. We'll see what he does next. But Tampa Bay, they will be eliminated in the first round. I have not been impressed with them all season long. I have basically had them as a first-round exit. Give me Dallas and Dak Prescott to move on to face the 49ers in a great battle, an 80s classic.
Well, here's my scenario. For the NFC divisional round, I got the Bucks going to San Francisco, and then I got the Eagles hosting the New York Football Giants. And then in the AFC, you already know what, Jacksonville at Kansas City, while the Bills host the Bengals. In Isaiah's scenario, you got pretty much the same, but you have Dallas playing San Fran next week, while the Eagles host the New York Giants.
Yes, that's my pick. I got Niners, Cowboys at Levi's. I got Eagles, Vikings in Philly. And then I got Chiefs, Jags, and KC. And then I got Bills, Bengals in Buffalo.
Well, if you talk about it, we have to talk about this news that Damar Hamlin has been discharged from the hospital. And you know, Isaiah, you weren't here the last week we did this episode. How encouraged are you about Damar Hamlin's recovery?
I was very encouraged. In fact, I thought, unfortunately, I thought he was going to die. I really did. I thought that he had no chance at, surviving this injury. And not only did he survive it, but he actually did a FaceTime call to one of his teammates, and he spoke very well. And he looks like that he's back, not all the way back to 100%, but he could talk well. He could understand. He could speak well. It's amazing, the work that God can do. So I'm very, very encouraged. It's a great sign. It's a miracle. And, so glad that our prayers for Damar Hamlin has been answered.
Looking forward to wild card weekend here, but we go to performance of the week. For week 18, this is a great, I'm going to say my performance of the week of week 18, Isaiah, I'm going to go with the entire Detroit Lions because they had a great game plan to beat Green Bay. And Dan Campbell deserves a lot of credit for game plan, for putting together a great game plan in the frozen tundra. So give me the entire Detroit Lions team for performance of the week.
For me, I'm going to go with Josh Allen of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Not the Josh Allen of the Bills, but the Josh Allen of the Jacksonville Jaguars. The play that he made to strip Josh Dobbs and get the fumble, and the Jags were traded for a touchdown and become AFC South champs. That was a tremendous play, and now the Jags have done the impossible. They've won the division a year after being the number one the worst team in the league and having the number one overall pick. They've won their division now, and now they are going to the playoffs. What a year by Trevor Lawrence. What a year. What a coaching job by Doug Peterson and his staff, and just a tremendous season by the Jags, who rallied from 3-7 to 9-8 and making the playoffs. freaking believable.
And this is a team that's going to be very good next year too.
Yes, totally.
And
agree.
I think the torch has been passed in the AFC South that the Titans are probably taking a step back. I think this is Jacksonville's division to win.
I completely agree with that. I think that when you look at the Colts, they don't have a quarterback. Who knows who their next coach is going to be, whether it's Jim Harbaugh or
Jim Harbaugh, that might close the gap a little bit.
That might, but he needs a year. He needs at least a year in Indy to get it turned around.
Yeah, it might not be enough if it's him coaching. It doesn't mean that the Colts are going to leapfrog Jacksonville if it's Jim Harbaugh as their coach.
No, but they still need a few more pieces, though. I feel like on offense and defense. But I think that, like, let's say our predictions come true. For me, Chad O'Shea being the coach of the Texans would be absolutely laughable. Even though, like, I think he's a good football coach, I just don't think he deserves to be a head coach right now. Jim Harbaugh, I think, would be a great fit for the Colts. But I just think nobody in that division would be able to keep pace with Jacksonville. And I think the Titans, Laurel, you might be shocked with what I'm about to say, but I think they move off of Ryan Tannehill. I think Ryan Tannehill's days as the starter of the Titans have come to an end. I think that they're going to try to find a new quarterback because Tannehill was hurt this season a lot. And also, every team knows that if you stack the box, try to and stop Derrick Henry from running the football and going bonanzas, then you're going to have a great chance to stop this Titans offense, and they will be very ineffective.
You're right about them being ineffective here, but anyways, here we have some final thoughts and announcements. We have an announcement to make, Isaiah, so if I'm right, we have Sports Weekly tomorrow.
Yes, we have Sports Weekly tomorrow. It's going to be a very fun show. I'm looking forward to it. We got a lot of baseball to talk about. The A's just signed Shohei Ohtani's best friend from Japan, so that makes it interesting. Shintaro Fujinami's coming over on a one-year deal. Nelson Cruz to the Padres. Your Dodgers, Laurel, getting Miguel Rojas. Don't forget over the weekend, my Phillies got Gregory Soto. I mean, we have a lot of baseball to talk about. We have football, a lot of coaching news to talk about, preview the playoffs. Is Aaron Rodgers done? And then basketball, we got the Lakers to talk about, which will probably go live after the Lakers game tomorrow concludes against a red-hot Dallas Mavericks team. And also, don't forget, we got to talk about the Blazers' struggles so far as they've fallen from the 3rd seed all the way to the 10th seed or the 11th seed.
Oh, my gosh, that is a lot of, drama here. But my final thoughts here is that it's a great show. But next week on Extra Point, Isaiah, we will have a recap of Super Wildcard Weekend. We will preview divisional round. We'll see if our picks come true or not. And then we'll have our game picks on who we like going to the conference championship games the following Sunday, which we are looking forward to. And then we have to talk about the Pro Bowl games. And then the first week of February, we will have a preview of who will be playing in Super Bowl 57 down in Arizona. Hopefully it's your team, Isaiah, because it could be the year of Isaiah. It started out with a bang with Georgia, but what if it's San Francisco making it to the Super Bowl?
I would be ecstatic, man. With Brock Purdy, man. Oh my gosh! But hey, I
actually played Madden, and then I had Trey Lance as my starter, and I had the Niners beating the Bengals in Super Bowl 57 with Christian McCaffrey as your MVP.
Hey, that would be tremendous for sure. But, man, I'm going to ride on my guy Brock Purdy. He's a guy that I love since he was at Iowa State. I'm so happy the Niners drafted him, and now he's a starter. But I hope he stays healthy. I hope that, he does well in this first playoff game against the Seahawks. It's going to be so much fun. And I want revenge for what happened. I know Chardot knows what I'm talking about, but I want revenge for what happened back in 2013. I am still pissed off over what happened in 2013 over the NFC Championship, in which Richard Sherman goes back, taps the ball, Malcolm Smith interception. That's all she wrote. I am still pissed off over that. That really
that was Sherman. That was Sherman that tipped that ball, and then he said something to Michael Crabtree that I'm the best corner in the game in that interview with Aaron Andrews.
Yeah, I know that. I still remember that to this day. So I hope we get revenge on Saturday afternoon.
Well, I think Seattle's a good football team by all means, but I just think the Niners are well equipped. They're well built.
Yeah, and hey, man, if your prediction comes true, Loro, and Brock Purdy wins the Super Bowl, who knows? That is going to lead to a lot of big questions in San Francisco when it comes to the future of Trey Lance, the future of Brock Purdy, who's going to be the starter. Because if he wins the Super Bowl, you cannot let Trey Lance be the starter. I don't like that. The fans in SF would riot if Brock Purdy won the Super Bowl and is not the starter the following week or next season.
We'll see. But if the Niners don't make it to the Super Bowl, then I would say Trey Lance.
Yeah, there will be a lot of well, I think if they make it to the Super Bowl, even if they don't win it, I still think you got to start Purdy. But I think that if they go to the NFC Championship, that is going to be the biggest question, because imagine the pressure, Laurel, on Trey Lance if Purdy's on the bench after leading you to an NFC Championship, and Lance, like, let's say, throws a bad pass. Every fan in the stands at Levi Stadium is going to go, Purdy, 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 and it's gonna be what happened in New England remember when the Bailey Zappi fever was hitting everybody in New England and everybody in the stands was going Zappy, 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 Zappy. It will be that, but 50,000 times worse.
Oh my God, that's going to be something here. Yeah. But I'm looking forward to Sports Weekly tomorrow. Isaiah, I'm gonna actually talk to you about it after the show on text about what we're going to be discussing tomorrow on Sports Weekly. I can't wait for a great show and all that. So for Isaiah, Lauro signing off for now. Have a great night, and we'll see you on the Extra Point next week, which will have some good divisional round match previews and all that. And we might, who knows, we might get some head coaching news by then to talk about. Hopefully, have a good night.
In-person interviews start next week.
Yeah, so we'll see. We will see where that goes. And have a good night, everyone.
Yeah. I ain't choose the game chose me. I'm a champion, I need some trophy. I can drive the lane, I can shoot the three. I can run 100 yards, I can throw it deep. I ain't choose the game chose me. I'm a champion, I need some trophy. I can drive the lane, I can shoot the three. I can run 100 yards, I can throw it deep. I got what it take to be a champ. You know ball's life, you should come and join the camp. Title after title, put my rivals off the map. Thought you had the trophy till I came in for the snatch. I was born in it, not sworn in it. I ain't come to play my wrist mean.